BIGM is a project that is funded by the government of Canada, which is Global Affairs Canada, in partnership with SALGA and Federation of Canadian Municipalities. The aim is to strengthen the capacity of our municipalities in South Africa, which they are going to be supported by other municipalities in Canada. The municipalities in South Africa, they are focusing on two components. One is local economic development. Two is climate change integrating asset management. This project is inclusive of women, youth, and vulnerable population, so that whenever we do our work, we are including the people that are supposed to benefit in all the work that municipalities are doing. The partnership are between 6 municipalities in Canada, 6 in South Africa, where they are getting a support through job shadowing and capacity building by their partners. The partnership is between the 6 municipalities, where they are focusing on components 1,000 and components 2,000. On components 1,000, it's a Koga local municipality, Bizana, Nushwa, and Kinsabatan Dalinjemo. And on climate change and asset management, it's a 2 municipalities.
Seven, 1, 2. Testing, sir. Gary. Gary. David.
Hello. It was agreed that 2 o'clock we all back. Can we respect that we had said at 2 o'clock we're coming back? Can we then get everybody seated? Welcome back from lunch. And thank you very much from my colleague. Councillor Janda is not just my colleague, but my friend, my best friend and my worst enemy at the same time. I don't know whether that happens. I am Councillor Nomasomi Mshukwana, the Speaker of Matatiele Local Municipality, the PEC member chairing the working group, building capacity building and institutional resilience. My job is very, very small. Is just to direct Jeremy next to me. I'm made to understand that Kubeshni is joining us online, and the rest of other speakers, some are virtual, but I will hand over to Jeremy next to me to take over. Can we really stick to time? Because the program is very, very long. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Mshukwana. You said something that your job is very small, just to direct me. Let's see how small that job is at the end of this afternoon. But thank you all very much for coming back from lunch. It was delicious. I'm sorry to those of you who are joining online, but it was a very delicious lunch, which is why we're battling to actually get things moving now. A very warm welcome to our Canadians and virtual guests. We have a great program today. Can I just say that I think protocol has been observed this morning. It's learning time now. So any of the panelists or speakers or guests in Kubeshni and my studio that start going on protocol, I'm going to stop you. Please, if I can have all the politicians' support in that. Thank you. I know I'm protected by my speaker here. That's why she's here, actually. We are going to be learning and reflecting on this amazing journey that's been Big M. I've been very inspired by the speeches of this morning, that this journey was a true journey of learning, not teaching, learning by experience, learning by opening of hearts, learning by looking at contexts and how they're different, and what works in one area doesn't work in another area, but the approach one takes can work in both areas. So we've got a great program this afternoon. We're going to start off with some reflections from Salga, from Ms. Nozibele Makanda, who's the portfolio head in Salga, who's going to be talking about the gender lens and Salga perspective. And then we're going to take a step into more detail, coming closer to Big M, where we'll hear from Tebogo Matlao, or otherwise known in this part of the world as Bolelo. We're then going to have two chats. And I know we were calling them panels, Tebogo, a bit earlier, but actually we said they are talk shows. So if you can imagine me as Peter Ndoro or another anchor, I'll try and be that guy, asking people to reflect on their own journey with Big M, asking what were some of the takeaways that come from that, what were some of the tools that were applied as a result of the partnership, and what can we learn? What are we taking away? And we are doing this in a hybrid way. I think our skills at doing this have been radically ramped up because of COVID. So let me also introduce my co-facilitator, Kubeshni Govender, who's joining us from Joburg. And I'm sure she'll be visible on the Zoom screens. There she is, or there I am in many ways.
There you are,
I'm
5
seeing a
million
video of
times.
me on the screen, but I'm sure she's about to arrive. There she is. Kubeshni, a very warm welcome to you in Joburg.
Afternoon to you, Jeremy. Afternoon to everybody
It's
in
wonderful
Bay.
to be with you. Can we just say something, Kubeshni, so we can check that the audio is working?
Afternoon, Jeremy. How are you?
Great. We can take her audio up a bit if that's okay. Kubeshni is going to be anchoring our Canadian counterparts virtually, and I'm going to be anchoring the people in the room here. So our first talk will be with Kocha and Prince Edward County, Prince Edward Country municipalities. And we also will then look at Mushwa and Innisfil municipalities. And we're going to be looking at the kind of municipal ecosystems and the economy and how these municipalities have engaged and learned on these issues. That's our first talk show. And the format we're going to be doing is I will start interviewing the South African team, and then we'll move to the Canadians with Kubeshni, and we'll switch that around a bit. After that, we're going to go into another set of engagements with some panelists or guests from Winnie Madikizela Mandela local municipality and Strathroy Caradoc, and then from King Sabata Dalindyebo and the city of Surrey. And there we're looking at LED services, and we're going to listen a little bit more about this thing called the Red Hub. I don't know if you all know what the Red Hub is. I was thinking of it's like a red thing, but it's actually an acronym, which we'll hear more about. And that'll take us to tea. If we work well together, we might be able to catch up a little bit of time. The Canadians might have learned this about us, Kubeshni, but we're very bad at starting on time and really good at ending on time or leaving on time. So we're going to try and catch up some time to really mine the learnings. And I'd encourage you to try and be engaged and involved. We can't ask really for too many questions from the floor, but please join us in the interesting discussions we're going to have. Let me start off by inviting an amazing person who I met in these conferences who will get us started. Ms. Nozibele Makanda, I don't know if there she is. Please, in your succinct, magical way, will you just get us started off about this thing called the gender lens and the Salga perspective?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, Jeremy, and all the participants of the conference. Thank you for cutting the protocols for me. For Salga, really, what I've just prepared just a high overview. I'll just be looking into what BIGM is and this purpose in terms of this context, the definition, Salga's programs to drive inclusivity and mainstreaming. Inclusivity and mainstreaming just in brief, and then incorporation of the GPA frameworks moving forward. And so I'll just be that brief. And looking into the BIGM initiative, I like the keyword inclusivity when we're looking at building inclusive green municipalities. And with the aim of improving the capacity of South African municipal governments to support effective service delivery, inclusive local green economic growth, and enhance climate change mitigation and adaptation measures. And the program that is piloted the local economic development initiatives. I've highlighted piloted on LED for a number of reasons as the key department that will look into the social justice for women. And so as to promote job creation, poverty reduction, and enhance the well-being while empowering women, youth, and vulnerable groups, and ensuring their inclusion as the decision makers and beneficiaries. And it has been a very interesting journey as at the start of the conference, at Winnie Madikizela Mandela Municipality, where we have been listening to the stories of the impact of the program directly from the beneficiaries themselves. And some of the programs that we thought we are going to be looking into replicating them across the municipalities in the country as the SALGA Health, Community Services and Inclusivity portfolio. And so the BIGM program has improved municipal level plans and policies targeting climate change adaptation and mitigation, including asset management and policies and practices. And so looking into this, I thought of inclusivity, and the dictionary of Oxford has explained it as the practice of policy, the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those having physical or mental disabilities or belonging to other minority groups. And I've also looked into what the UNDP program is defining as mainstreaming, which is taking into account of gender equality concerns in all policy programs, administrative and financial activities, and in organizational procedures, thereby contributing to a profound organizational transformation. And organizational transformation being the key or buzzword here, because it leads to social transformation as well. In practical terms, this means that ensuring that staff fully understands the relevant policy and its context and have the capacity to implement it in order that they can bring the outcomes of policy analysis, including socio-economic analysis, into the core decision-making process of the organization, and in this context, the municipality. And this includes both the core policy decisions of the organization and the small everyday decisions of implementation. And so again, I looked into the International Labour Organization's definition, which we have also incorporated into our mainstreaming programs with our corporate services in municipalities. And this talks to mainstreaming as the process of integrating equality concerns across the board into all programs, objectives, and activities in order to promote equality of women in employment. And the mainstreaming strategy calls for the introduction of gender analysis and planning in all activities. The mainstreaming strategy also implies the identification of potential different effects of programs and projects on men and women, because we experience service delivery differently, and especially as women. And so the provisions necessary to ensure that those activities have a positive effect on gender equality becomes important. And key to this is the need to break down all barriers that prohibit equal participation and involvement of women and other vulnerable groups. So looking into home and the work that SALGA has been doing with municipalities in South Africa is that we have the special programs unit that is in the executive mayors and mayors offices in municipalities. And it deals with inclusivity work. And the principle that drives it is that nothing about us without us. That was a social mobilization that drove this program and that incorporated these the vulnerable groups into the offices of the executive mayors and mayors. And so this is not just for getting them to participate and for consultation, but also for actual involvement into the planning and the execution of some of the programs, and also reviewal of the same. So the current stakeholders in municipalities in the SPU programs includes its women, youth organizations, the elderly, the people with disabilities, children, of course, the stakeholders that represent the interests of the children, because they can't represent themselves in municipalities. And currently we need to start including the LGBTI, the BTQI community, and we've already reached out as the SALGA Women's Community. Awareness, education, acceptance, and involvement in community life remains a priority for all the vulnerable groups, especially those that the people with disabilities, where community doesn't know how to work with them and incorporate them into the program. So education is key. And also working to establish accountability mechanisms and strengthen participation of the stakeholders within their constituencies and within municipalities. And again, the SALGA Women's Commission, which was established in 2010 to coordinate, promote, and advocate for gender-appropriate strategies and practices within member municipalities, and feed into the regional and continental processes. And some of the key programs here will be to drive is campaigning for women representation, the 50-50 campaign, gender focal work, activism, and mobilization of partners, understanding gender mainstreaming in municipal planning and budgeting, feminism, that is putting women at the center and establishing and empowering women structures. And in municipalities, we currently have multi-party women caucuses. And Jeremy, it's been an interesting journey as well in the establishment of this because the women constitute the majority of the population. And they are the face of poverty. They are the face of climate change, underdevelopment, unemployment, disease, and inequality. And therefore, their voices matter, and their voices are key in driving the program of any kind of planning and execution for the benefit of the community. Feminism, which also speaks to equality of sexes socially, economically, and politically, is one of the programs that are driven by the SWC, and also driving the understanding that in order for women to be equal to men, we do not have to be as hardened, but that rather bring femininity work or focus into the leadership and into the programs of governments across the world from all levels. And so we're looking into focusing on a kinder, nurturing, caring, inclusive, safe world. And I like the quote that I won't finish again that says, if women ruled the world, and we've already seen exactly how that has shaped up in the fight against COVID globally, if you could take into account what the presidents of the countries across the world have had to achieve throughout this time. And so just briefly, as I learned, Jeremy, is to just look into some of the key interventions that we are working with as the SALGA Women's Commission, as well as the SPU programs in municipalities. Generally, just to conduct annual audits on women representation, both politically and administratively. So as to ensure that the 50-50 campaign is actually pursued and the Equity Act targets are met in municipalities. To ensure gender planning and budgeting, I think I've already mentioned this one, lobbying for training and capacity building of female councillors, so as to be able to actually drive the gender work and establish family gender agenda in municipalities, and community-based interventions, including working with girls and young women on the sanitary dignity drive, and on campaigning against GBVF and supporting the victims. And so we're collaborating with a number of stakeholders, Gender Links, Centers for Excellence, the United Nations Women Commission for Gender Equality, SAWIT, and now, of course, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. And we've faced a number of challenges in the work as we've implemented some of these programs in municipalities. And like, for example, in the campaign for 50-50, we would seem to be getting closer at the beginning of a term, but mid-term, female appointees get changed and replaced by men. Municipalities regarding the establishment of the Multi-Women's Caucus as a Section 79 Portfolio Committee, an option. And there is really no legislative review in place to enforce women empowerment and gender equality agenda. And then reports not disaggregating the data on how the projects and programs respond to mainstreaming gender and women into service delivery. And IDPs generally do not reflect mainstreaming of gender. And so we are really looking into some of the opportunities that we're identifying in terms of the political will that is out there, both in SALGA and within the main leading political parties. And we are driving a campaign to get all the parties into the mainstream of ensuring that they drive women representation programs, especially in the coming local government elections as they are making the deployment. And we're monitoring the work of the SPUs, and the gender-based analysis plus program will be customized and will influence the general framework on the vulnerable groups as we are embarking on that program to consolidate the frameworks that we have. And we're going to be using the tool that has been used to analyze the work and assess how far we've progressed. And also I see that it is going to assist in the SWC in its monitoring mechanisms for the SALGA structures, and of course help us to plan interventions for the next 5-year term of local government. And then basically what we are looking into is ensuring that all the work that you are doing is to break all barriers to participation, and ensuring that we all understand that the gender work is for all of us. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Nozi. That sets a great context for us to start zooming in now to what has been happening on the BIGM project. You mentioned the term GBA+. And Tebogo Matlau is going to give us some input on that. I'm looking at him now. I don't want to disrespect the camera there, but Tebogo, are you almost ready to join?
I'm ready to talk wherever I want.
You can talk. We're just going to get the mic sanitized so that you are safe. But the Canadians need to hear you.
Yeah, they will hear me.
Canadians, I hope you can hear him.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, Betty Zanda.
Yeah.
That's inclusivity. Chair, all the protocol observed. Thank you very much, Mabjanda. They are all my parents. Have been adopted within the province. But thank you very much to be here. I'll just try to become short about the project that we have been doing. We started with what we call the strategy to develop a BIGM, so that we wanted to know what are the key issues within our municipalities. And what we did, we engaged service provider to develop a strategy for 6 municipalities. In mostly Councillor Stoffel, they didn't have policies in line with what Nozi has just presented. So we did an assessment to look at what is missing and how do we close the gap with the municipalities and other municipalities. When we're presenting, when we're inviting colleagues to do the work with us, even communities, they were happy because they heard from communities, not from the municipalities, saying we do have this. In one municipality, they were saying, yes, we do have this. And community person said, no, you don't have. If it's there, it's not reviewed. It was not passed by council. So it needs to go back so that we can be able to say, this is the right one. So I'll try to be short, not to talk about the GBA. They know it, they've got certificates, they are for free. And we are saying this is one of the things that we can also put for the councillor induction program when the new councillors are joining, because it assists us to start talking about the GBA issues. But I'll just go to what examined the issues here. We're in Port St. John during the workshop about issues of gender with communities. It's a framework, I'm not going to talk about it. The 6 mini conference, I spoke up a lot about the GBA+. The cross-cutting gender issues, which is what we normally talk about it, even when we're in Orawa, we engage more about these issues of gender. In most municipalities, what we found in the study is that they've got budget for events, not budget for programs. And one of the key things as the municipality is going to come and talk is that they also spoke in Port St. John to try now to effect the budget in each and every department or unit, so that it in line with what they wanted to do. It was a small budget, but at least there was the beginning of that, so that they are very inclusive. Nushua, same workshop. We had Koha also, where we met with our partners to deliberate on issues that are affecting communities. That was inclusivity of the project program director. When and where to apply GBA, that's very key at any stage of policy. So you don't need to do it at the end, but at any stage, when you start to develop policies, project program, or you initiate any work, and the High Commission spoke about it at the beginning of the project. The practices are there. You can also log online to do it. Give you 2 hours, 3 hours. What we did, Chair, is my chair in the working group. Sorry, Jeremy. We set as a minimum standards for officials also to be part of the missions. They needed to do the program so that they understand when they're dealing with the issues, Mamtingo. And most of them, they did it, except there are 2 or 3. And I saw one was here, but I think he moved out because I normally mention his name. But we did it in a way that even Winnie Madikizela Mandela was leading in that when they were doing the GBA plus courses. Almost the entire project teams, Port St. John, the entire project teams, KSD, the entire project teams, all the 6 municipalities, they did it so that they can understand issues. So what we need to do now is to take it to other departments so that other departments also can talk the same language, Jeremy. So one of the key issues was communication within the GBA plus, mission with the vulnerable population. Perhaps other municipalities will might fight with me, but your council are not, we're not at that stage when we started being able to accommodate people with disabilities. And we got promised that most of the council will be responding to that check, because you as a leaders within the society, when people wanted to come and hear what councils are discussing, they need to have an access to that area. So, but we're working on it. We had Mr. Richard and Jake in some of the workshop. In this one, Lance was there. We had to change because the hotel didn't have a ramp or a lift to take out our people with disabilities up. We had to change everything and continue with the workshop outside the venue. But we were very innovative with time to ensure that we are accommodating people with disabilities. So that was a good thing also about the project, that we were very inclusive. In KSD, you remember there was a woman who said, with traffic lights, if you can have a traffic light that can, when I approach, it will say, give a siren that people are aware that the person who's crossing is blind. So in Canada, we've seen some of those which we can try to implement in our session. This is the building blocks that I like. It's what assumptions are you making when you start to do this GBA plus? Or who could be left behind? When you start to develop your IDP processes, these are the things that you can also do. What we did in BIGM, one of the key issues was, who do you connect with, Jeremy? So we connected ourselves with community. The traditional leaders were also connected with us. Data is very key for decision making. So we really need to ensure that you look at that. We have to, especially when you do an informed decision. When our guys were doing that, was sharing me some information today early on, I realized that Kuka, with the current 2019 stats, there are more males than female. And we're doing it early on when we're doing research in the morning with Nebo. And we say, wow, these are the things that also at the beginning, we still have that data, but we extrapolate it from State SA. These are the steps that I wanted to talk about, Jeremy. Maybe you can also give me a sign if I have 2 minutes. Is identify the issues that are affecting
got 2 minutes.
The communities. Why is to identify gender and diversity. In some of the workshops, we had 3 hours to deal with the issues, but community took us until 5 to 6 hours in KSD when we were deliberating on the matter. Define the outcomes that you wanted to achieve in your programs. Gather information and evidence. It's very key for BIGM because we really thought we need to have that story to tell about the issues. The other things is to develop and analyze options, which is very key. We do have good stories to tell, Madam Tingo. as municipalities, but we can't analyze that kind of information to relate, to profile. We only wait until we've got service delivery issues in our areas. But there's a good story that we can tell through our communication issues. Communicate is one of the key issues. Communicate with a variety of audiences, and this is what we've also portraying for this kind of a project. Evaluate, it's very key. We've got Dr. Piri with us, who's going to evaluate the program so that we can see, we can come and talk and think we're doing the work, Musa, but knowing that perhaps we didn't do much that we wanted to do. So the evaluation will also assist that part of the work. So we spoke about diverse issues, and when they were putting the moment of silence and remembering BIGM participants, we also had traditional leaders who were also working with us throughout. Is an evidence. They didn't just put it there for us to look at it, but they did participate throughout the program. Jeremy, here is a certificate as part of the capacity building that we can do. It's for free, Craig. You can do it at any time, wherever you are, and it allows you to stop and continue. It can take you 3 to 4 days, but at the end, you'll understand how these issues are. So the district also it's an evidence that Amatole was part of us throughout the program. So Jeremy, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Tebogo. You know, I used to say that Councillor Janda was my speaker, because when I worked at Amatole, he was my speaker, but now he's my mayor. My new speaker is from Matatiel, and she taught us the way in which they applaud in Matatiel, which is just one clap, but you do it after I say, Betty Zandla. Thank you. I can go. Tebogo wants to go. You can go, but we still feel you. Okay, we're gonna shift now, and I'm going to open my first talk show. So let me invite the Kocha municipality to these beautiful chairs here. So I'm very pleased to welcome Councillor Hendricks, the mayor of Kocha, Councillor Bornman, also a speaker, perhaps the next speaker, if Councillor Msukwana, if we don't Betty Zandler properly, then I'll have to go to Kocha, but I'm still with you. And then Ms. Fezeka Mabusela, and then Kubeshni from Canada. Who do we have?
Thanks, Jeremy. On our side, we have Councillor Steve Ferguson, who is the mayor of Prince Edward County. And I think his address is going to be a video address, Jeremy. We have Mr. Todd Davis, the Director of Community Development and Strategic Initiatives. He will be with us online virtually. That's us.
Great. Thank you, Kubeshni. And I just want to also invite my guests. Welcome to my lounge. I've been encouraged to say that the cameraman is the guy we should look at when you want to say something to Canada, and we can look at the rest of our beautiful South Africans when you want to speak to them. I'm also going to warmly welcome Mr. Mkolisi Mkunu and Mr. Zamo Gwala, who will be joining us online. And we're going to start with some framing statements. And Zamo and Mkolisi, I'm going to invite you to do something radical, which is to try and be succinct in your opening statements, because we keep on wanting to get to the practitioners so we can get some of the lessons learned. So just a few high-level statements to help frame us and get us going. So Zama, I'm going to ask you to kick us off and talk a little bit about economic development, inclusive economic development, and some of your opening statements on this issue to get us going. Thank you. And you know, Zama, it always happens, but you're actually muted. I do it all the time.
Apologies. Good afternoon, Jeremy. Good afternoon to everyone who's attending in person and our partners in Canada and everyone else who is online. Greetings to our leadership as well. The constitution of our country in South Africa requires municipalities to promote the development of their local economies, and for the national and provincial government to cooperatively support them. Significant progress has been made since 1994 in this area, but more coherent and coordinated effort is still required to strengthen local economic development across the country. That has become more critical due to the devastating impact of COVID-19 in our economy and the lives and the livelihood of the majority of South Africans, as well as our vulnerable communities across municipal areas. LED can have an important contribution to improve economic growth, employment creation, poverty reduction, and addressing inequalities at a local level. This can be achieved through enhanced implementation of LED programs and initiatives. Accordingly, every municipality has to have a set of a practical system and implementation plan with interventions and processes to unlock the area's economic potential by responding to the challenges relating to both local economic development planning and implementation. These challenges may mainly center around the lack of well-resourced and dedicated LED intervention that rely on coordination and collaboration within the system of governance and social partners. Councillor Tsingo put it correctly earlier today when she said to us, local economic development cannot be separated from women empowerment. On the other hand, when we talk about business retention and expansion, there's an economic development strategy of proactively connecting with existing business in order to understand and respond to their needs. This is a deliberate intervention that a municipality will do together with community to understand what are the needs of business and respond to those needs so that the business remain in the specific area and hopefully grow and create more opportunities for jobs as well as local community development. We all know the devastation that is felt when a company closes down. So a municipality has that responsibility to look after and companies that have already invested in their area. So when we talk about that, there are ingredients, I call it ingredients, that becomes very important for the municipality to have in order to ensure that the local economy is growing, but also to look after those existing businesses. The most important one that we have seen in our municipalities that we are talking about is the progressive and agile leadership. I'm talking about agile leadership because we are then open to some assistance that are coming. When this partnership was formed with the Canadians, it's not something that was planned beforehand. It came at the time when we required it most. But we had a leadership at Eastern Cape that was able to respond positively and accommodate that kind of intervention for the betterment of the area. The second one that is important is the sustainable infrastructure and service delivery. As we talk about asset management, something that we have also learned through this partnership with the Canadians, that it's important. A lot of companies that are moving away from their local areas is because they feel that the infrastructure is either not there or is not well maintained or the service delivery is poor. Then you find that the company ends up moving to another area. So you cannot talk about business retention if your asset management is not in place. The supportive local officials, at times we find that the company that is operating in the area ends up moving away because it's not getting the required kind of support from the government officials. So it's important that that be in place. It's one thing to have the political leadership and the political will, but if it's not supported by the administration, then it becomes a futile exercise. So the other thing that it becomes important is that we need to have long-term plans that outlive the political leadership. So our political leaders come to the office and have a term of office, which is 5 years, but the plans that they must put forward, they must be so visionary that it outlives them. Because if that doesn't happen, then we are perpetually planning and never get into an opportunity to implement. So it's important that we put quite a sustainable kind of plans in place. Then the next point that becomes important is that there has to be a partnership between the private and the public sector. And Canadians have demonstrated to us very well that it can be done. The trust deficit that at times we see between the private and the public sector is something that we just have to find a way of dealing with and getting rid of, because it can be a stumbling block in terms of the local economic development. The last one that is equally important is that we need to be open to partnership locally and partnership internationally, because if we are not that open, we'll lose the critical partners like BIGM. So from where we stand, we have benefited quite a lot, and we are very appreciative of the partnership that has been formed with BIGM because it has been useful. Recently, as last year, towards the end of the year, BIGM came to us and said, over and above everything that they've done, it's important that we start to put plans that whenever we come across crises, we are ready. So we are going through that to say to municipalities, let's put those plans together so that should we be attacked by another kind of crisis, we are not found wanting. I'll stop there in the interest of time, but I think the issues of business retention become very critical in ensuring that we do grow our local economy. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Zamo. Very, very important words around the focus on retention, and some big high-profile tragic events about big companies leaving municipalities. We're hearing about that in the news because of basic things not being done. So thank you for that. Partnerships, leadership, and of course, stability and service delivery. Thank you so much, Zamo. Kolisi, I'm going to ask you to come in here with a few more words on framing this issue of local economic development.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Program Director. I would say that without a doubt, this has been one of the most successful partnerships in the post-democratic era. The past 4 years really have yielded immense results for our members and also for ourselves as SALGA in terms of us being able to going forward take these solutions and replicate them even in other municipalities outside of the 6 municipalities that are part of the program. I mean, there's been a lot has been said about some of the solutions and methods which were introduced during the course of this program, from the Red Hub Center to the BRNE. So many of those tools, which I'm not really going to reiterate, but those solutions, it's clear, that they've really added a lot of value in terms of changing the way we do things and changing even the culture at a municipal level. So the value really of this partnership has been immense. And one of the great things about the partnership is the fact that, and I've been part of this partnership for the past 4 years, is the fact that the solutions, it's been seeking solutions at a grassroots level, even in terms of preparing of strategies. It's been done in a way that we go to the grassroots and find out from the people, from the business community, what are some of their needs, and try and gauge the temperature, and then from there onwards devise the rightful solutions. So as SALGA going forward, our duty really is to harness all of these solutions, all of these innovations that we've been able to get from this partnership, and really try and replicate them even in other municipalities. Particularly in those areas really which are under distress. We know the state of many of our municipalities, so we really have that duty as SALGA to make sure that we can harness the solutions for the benefit of those members. And also, from our end, we also are looking to ensure that this program has a lasting legacy beyond this, the formal partnership. So for instance, when I look at an IDP or a strategy of Mosha or Kuka, one must be able to pick up that this is a BIGM municipality. There must be that difference that we are able to spot. And as such, we want to use these municipalities as a benchmark, in terms of trying to replicate the solutions in other parts of the country. And from our end, also as SALGA, as the vanguard of local government, as a thought leader in the sector, it's now incumbent on us to pick up the baton and make sure that this program can be immortalized, and that these solutions, and that it can endure long into the future, and that we can really use the tools that we've got from this program and the knowledge that we're able to get to actually build on this local government project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kolisi. we are looking at what's called component 1000 of Big M. And I was so intrigued by this 1000 because I know component 1, 2, and 3. And I thought maybe it's because it's Big M. It's now 1000. But I realized that in fact, the way in which the planning is done is like component 1000, then it's 1100 for the outputs and the activities. It's very clever. But I was just intrigued by the component 1000. So we're going to be talking a little bit about component 1000 in the case of Koche and the partnership with Prince Edward Country. And we'll start off with Koche. And I've got 3 questions for 3 representatives. And I actually wanted to ask all of you, each of them. But I think we're a little bit constrained. So I'm going to invite you to answer each one question. And Mr. Mayor and Mr. Speaker, we're mining learning, not doing the protocol. So if I get the order wrong, please forgive me. So I want to actually start with you, Councillor Bornman. And then I'm going to come to you, Fezeka, and then I'm going to come to you, Mayor Hendricks. Councillor Bornman, if you were to reflect on this journey, you've been involved in this process. As we've been hearing, it's been an interesting partnership about kind of human connection and exposure to great tools and techniques. What would you say have been the successes for you from where you sit? And what changes have you seen? The question we're going to be asking the municipalities is, how will I know if I'm stepping into a Big M municipality? There should be something different after this. So let's start off with you in response to those 2 questions, please.
Thank you, Jeremy. I think for me, without a doubt, it's the whole BRE concept, the concept of how municipalities think about economic growth and development, and how we think about connecting with our business community. And it is so crucial that we see getting big investment into a municipality as a crucial part, but only one part of developing our economy. A massive part that we as Koche have overlooked in the past is the relationship that we have with our current business community that we have in our towns, and the small businesses, and the impact that they have in creating jobs, in sustaining families, in making sure that we keep our municipality growing. And if we do not pay close attention to what their needs are and what they want to see in our towns, we are going to miss the boat by a long way. We have to, it is crucial that we do that. And so in Canada, we had quite an intensive look at how they do that. We learned that our staff had a job shadowing experience where they actually went on interviews with our Canadian partners to businesses and asked them questions. What can we do? How can we help? How can we engage more with you? How can we do better? How can we help you to do better business? And so forth. And then when we came back, we did those same interviews. We went through that same process with our small business. We started with our, I think, the food, beverage, and accommodation industry. And then we went over to the construction industry, and we got really, really valuable inputs into how we can assist these businesses or these business sectors to develop more and to expand their own businesses more and to grow their businesses. Above all, I think just the attitude and the mindset that we as politicians, and I think as officials as well, have about economic growth. I think that attitude, that relationship was crucial, was probably the most valuable part for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bornman. I love what you're saying about relationships and attitude. They have such a direct return on money that's brought in. Fezeka, did you get exposure to any specific tools and knowledge, and how have you used that in your work in the municipality?
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, you could.
It's actually a very interesting question you're asking now. I am thinking about all the exciting tools that we were exposed to. Obviously, the first one the speaker has spoken to in terms of the BRNA, which is a great tool on its own in terms of just gathering great data on how to make sure that your plans for LED are responsive to your local businesses, and also bringing in an opportunity for retaining those businesses and assisting them to grow. We also had an opportunity to have an introduction to a first impressions community engagement tool, which the Canadian counterparts use to assess the visitors' experience and expectations, and how the municipality is meeting those expectations now from a tourism perspective. And for us, as Goha municipality, we launched a tourism strategy of positioning ourselves as an events capital of South Africa. And we are working and engaging towards achieving that strategy. So we found that the FICE tool, which is this first impressions community engagement tool, would be very useful for us to have post event assessments, and just to also see and assist our events that we view as our anchor events, and we gather information again there with that too, in terms of how the visitor experienced that event, what could have been done better, and specifically from a service delivery point of view, what is the view of the town and the municipality. So that is one of the other great tools that we interacted with. We also had an opportunity to implement a tourism asset mapping tool, which from also again trying to get your data in place, and in terms of the assets that you have, the assets that are either the natural assets or even your built assets that could be used, or that we can position for increasing the visitor experience within Goha. And so that was also a very useful tool for us. We actually found that there were so many of them underutilized that we are now wanting to focus to either repair or improve on from either the routes, and just increase the product, the tourism product within the municipality. I think those for me were the great three tools that we were exposed to.
Fantastic. Thank you, Fezeka. Very clear. I mean, 3 tools that municipalities can use throughout the country if this big M is going to ripple. Business retention and expansion, tourism strategy, with this, was it the FICE tool? First impressions and community engagement, really interesting. And then the tourist asset mapping. So I think those are, we'll be interested, and I'm sure you're hungry to learn more about that. Councillor Hendricks, you're the mayor. And you know, I feel like I'm protected by this podium. I'm looking at mayors here, but you know, mayors are so good at selling anything and making the best of a difficult situation. So I'm going to invite you to tell us honestly, how has this experience changed you, or what lessons are you taking away as a mayor, having been engaged in this process?
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks first for the invite into your lounge. You never said the seats were heated. Just hi to our colleagues as well in Canada. Jeremy, I think probably the most success factor of this program was our LED strategy that came from this process through the intervention and support from our colleagues in Prince Edward County. And I must place this into context, because when we started governing in 2016, when this term started, we had a very small LED department. My director will say, I think we had 2 or 3 people. We had 2 people. And even there was a comment from a senior manager who said that LED is not a core function of local government. And we completely had a misunderstanding of the value that local economic development plays in the municipality when it comes to poverty alleviation and when it comes to growing your economy. So yes, so through this process of partnership, we've now have an established and well-developed LED strategy and plan. The efficacy of that plan still needs to be tested as we implement that plan to see if it does actually include women and youth and vulnerable groups. Does it actually deal with poverty alleviation? And in terms of climate change, are we mitigating and are we adapting? So yes, we have a nice plan in writing. It's proof is now in the pudding, whether we can implement it in terms of those goals that we set out for ourselves. Mayor King, my favorite mayor, she said earlier in a speech that, you know, Koga, don't keep this to yourself. If you are successful in certain processes, how do we include others? And I want to say to my mayor that we've also now, other than our LED strategy, we also now have what we refer to as an economic growth plan or economic growth strategy, where we look at the regional economy and saying that Koga cannot just grow on its own. It's got to include its local municipalities around it and have regional growth. So we're looking at intertrade and how do we start expanding on trade between our municipalities so we all grow collectively. Jeremy, and I think you asked the speaker earlier, when you come into Koga municipality, what will convince you that this is a BIGM municipality? What would make it look different than its neighbors? We're currently in the process of developing, and we've already started a bioeconomy zone. And the significance of this bioeconomy zone that's within our LED strategy is that one, it's unique, and two, it will probably be a first for South Africa. So in terms of this bioeconomy zone, you one looking at production and manufacturing within clean energy. So your wind farms, your waste to energy plants, your solar, we're even looking at solar panel manufacturing, all within one bioeconomy zone. And the thing about that zone is once you get to production and manufacturing within that zone, it starts to create jobs. And you start to enable economic activity now. Now, when you look at the BRE model, it's not just about your local businesses and retaining them and expanding them, but it's also about increasing economic activity. So when you start to increase economic activity, you've got to have a full understanding of what that is. It doesn't mean that people have a job and have a place to go work. They also need a place where they can spend it. It's kind of pointless if people work in Koga municipality, then come here to Nelson Mandela Bay to do their shopping and clothing shopping and grocery shopping. You need to spend that where you stay. So you can't generate your salary in one municipality, then you run to another one and go spend it there. So economic activity, trying to grow your economic activity, you need to fully understand what that means in terms of both sides of demand, supply and demand. So this bioeconomy zone will be absolutely unique in what it offers. The fact that it offers jobs that leads to poverty alleviation, and the fact that it leans towards climate change and clean energy and reducing your carbon footprint. I would love to speak an hour about what we're planning there, but that's probably going to be the one thing, other than seeing the wind farms or the turbines, that's probably going to be the one thing that sets us apart from any other municipality in this country, to know that you have entered a BIGM municipality. So, Jerome, thank you.
Thank you very much. I love the tangibility of that and some practical things, I think. And with the regulatory regime, don't worry, My lounge is full of microphones. With the regulatory changes with energy supply or provision, generation, like the sky's the limit now, and there's so many things that can be done. And of course, the opportunity to share amongst each other is the real thing. So, Mayor Klingo, the challenge to Kocha is live now. Let's hear more in a year's time about how you guys have twinned from the east to the west of the Eastern Cape. Thank you so much to my panel. Please don't leave the lounge. Help yourself to the refreshments. And feel comfortable. Let's go to Canada now. And Kubeshni, let me bring you in. And fortunately, we're on different time zones, so we can catch up some of the time that we have tried to catch. Kubeshni, introduce us to your team, please, and let's hear what they've learned.
Thank you, Jeremy. I so wish we were in different time zones right now. But we're going to start, Jeremy, with the video message from Councillor Steve Ferguson. And then I have two, not one speaker from the county. I have Todd Davis, as indicated earlier, and I have Ms. Rebecca Lamb. So we're going to start with the video message. And I'm going to ask the tech guys to cue it up because that's happening from your side of the world. And then we'll go to Mr. Todd Davis and Ms. Rebecca Lamb.
Hello and greetings to everyone gathered today for this mini closeout conference into building inclusive green municipalities. Prince Edward County has much to be grateful for over the past 4 years of this project. We have valued the opportunities to learn from and alongside our South African colleagues. I've enjoyed getting to know many of you and gaining new perspectives to our missions here in Prince Edward County and in Jeffreys Bay. Some of us remain connected through social media. This project allowed us to come together and share knowledge on local economic development, destination development and marketing, and inclusive community engagement. The past year and a half of this project has brought unprecedented challenges, especially for our South African partners. Despite the global pandemic brought on by COVID-19, our South African partners have remained resilient and committed to their work. I know that it must not have been easy, especially given the hardship caused by the virus. I extend my sincere condolences to everyone in your community who has suffered or lost loved ones during the pandemic. Throughout all the setbacks, an incredible team has advanced this project. On behalf of County Council, I want to express my deepest appreciation to several partners and individuals: Global Affairs Canada, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, South African Local Government Association, or SALGA, the entire Building Inclusive Green Municipalities team, our colleagues in Koha, including late Mayor Elsa van Lingen and current Mayor Horatio Hendricks, Speaker Hating Borman, Councillor Francis Baxter, the late Chief Williams, Director Fizika Mabusala, and her team, plus the many other staff, volunteers, community partners, and businesses in Jeffreys Bay who were involved. Although we are sad to see this project formally end, we know that the relationship we've made in Koha and South Africa will live on. The connections are deep and lasting, and it's my hope that we can continue to work and collaborate as colleagues in the future in an informal manner. And we look forward to welcoming you back to Prince Edward County. Please come and visit us again when it is safe to do so. Thank you and all the best.
Fantastic, and clearly echoing some of those big themes that emerged in the mini conferences that we've had over the last few days, Jeremy. We're going to go straight to Todd and Rebecca now. And Todd, maybe we'll get started with you. You know, there's this piece about what we take away from a learning perspective. And I'm going to challenge you and Rebecca this morning, and I'm going to ask you, what lessons would you remind your colleagues in South Africa to remember that you learned together during the context of this BIGM engagement, and some of those good practices that you think this initiative has left behind that are memorable for you as you look and you reflect on BIGM? Todd, shall we start with you?
Sure. Thank you and good morning. And I appreciate the opportunity to participate from across the globe this morning. It's pretty early here, but we're well fueled on coffee and ready. So I think probably the biggest takeaway from my perspective that I think we both learned together is, is that two communities on opposite sides of the world who have very different, a number of different challenges, but we have a number of very similar challenges when it comes to ideas of local economic development, and tourism development. We were able to share and introduce a number of different tools that we use in the economic development sphere. And I mean, those have been talked about by Speaker Borman, Director Babusela, specifically around things like business retention and expansion, or the first impressions community engagement tools that we have used in our own community. But I think what one of the things that we learned together throughout this process was how similar the challenges that we both face as communities that are reliant on tourism and agriculture as primary drivers of our economy, and that our differences aren't so great. Maybe they're different in size and scope, but really, we have a lot of the same challenges in our own community that we're dealing with that are typical of those types of industries. We think about something like tourism, for instance. There is a high environmental cost associated with something like tourism. And so when you look at developing a project or a local economic development strategy, for instance, that looks at things like gender equality or using a gender lens, youth, vulnerable people, and climate change, I think from the perspective of both of our communities, something like climate change was really became really key for our look. And as an example, we've been working on this project with our partners for 4 years. 2 years ago, our own community declared a climate change emergency, which I wouldn't necessarily directly attribute to the work that we did with COHA. However, I believe that that's become a greater certainly it's become a greater consideration, and it's something that we learned from our partners in COHA to have a greater appreciation for. When we think about some of the success stories, I would say from the COHA perspective, my greatest one of the greatest successes I feel like we were able to work on together, as highlighted by Chairman or Speaker Borman, is related to the business retention and expansion program. And I think it's not necessarily just the outputs that come from that in the analysis, which are all excellent, but I feel like our local officials that we've worked with in partnership really got the understanding that it's so much more than just sort of the data analysis that one does from that type of work. It's the engagement that you have with your business community. It's the development of relationships between the municipality and the business community, and understanding the services that we deliver or that COHA delivers are the services that the business community or the businesses in your community are looking for. We are often reminded in Canada that it is very expensive to create a brand new job in our community by bringing a business to our community, and it's much more affordable to create jobs in your community by listening to and working with the businesses that are in your community already. I also would remind the group that it's sometimes there's some concern when you talk to a community that to the businesses that their interest is or what they're looking for is investment, but oftentimes what we've found in the past is that having a relationship and a conversation with your business to understand what their challenges are, they sometimes aren't around capitalization. They oftentimes are related to the work that we do as a municipality and inadvertently getting in the way of their expansion programs and processes. And so understanding what the requirements are, sometimes it's just as easy as, not just as easy, but sometimes it's as simple as the municipality changing the way that it does something subtly that will help to foster growth of the local business community. in the municipality. So I would say that those are from my perspective, some of the bigger successes. I know Rebecca has other things that I'm sure she'll talk to today, but certainly that's from my perspective, some of the great successes that I feel we were able to drive out of this program. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Todd. And clearly picking up on those big themes of the LED and tourism piece and the ecosystem of it, and the benefits of engagement, the business community and community in general, in terms of testing the assumptions, because oftentimes we may think when we work on our own that our solutions are these complex, complicated things. But as a municipality, we might find that if we talk to the stakeholders, we might come out with these very simple things that might be very meaningful for them, but we don't know if we don't test the assumptions. Thank you very much.
You're
Rebecca,
welcome.
I'm sure you have lots to contribute to this one. Over to you.
Thank you. I would echo obviously what Todd has said and our colleagues at the facility. I think something we talked about in the mini session that I wanted to highlight again here, though, was that commitment to the work, and that this project happened on top of the existing portfolios and work that these teams were doing and working towards. So it took on a really big chunk of extra work to do, and it was challenging work. And I'm reminiscing about going with Olile to an interview at a great restaurant down in J Bay to do a BR&E. And the thing about it is you're going into these interviews to meet with the community because you need something from them, right? You need these core questions, information, but what you walk away with is often a long to-do list, because these people are having the first, for some, opportunity to have a face-to-face interaction with someone from the local municipality. And they're very excited to let you know that recycling should be picked up on a different day, or how do I get my sign put up on the street? And that happens to us, as Todd mentioned, we become kind of the catch-all for all of these things. And so it's a great opportunity, but it can be very overwhelming and stressful. And I saw my colleagues handling that so well, and taking that on, and then being able to reach out to fellow colleagues in other departments that aren't necessarily focusing on LED, thinking about what Mayor Hendricks was just saying about that. And you can't say that it's housed in one spot. Those arms reach out to other departments, and you need to engage with others in comms or GIS to be able to achieve those things that the business community is asking for, or at least be able to get back to them and close the loop to say, we can't change the recycling day because. So I think that was very admirable that this team was able to juggle both those things. I can also remember being in J Bay and having Mayor Hendricks arrive in his roads outfit. I think he was doing pothole filling that day, and that everybody has to chip in, right? And there's no, maybe there's a perception that municipal workers are pushing emails around all day, but we're on the ground and connecting with community. And I saw that a lot through this program. And I think although it brings on more work for the team, it's the right work, and it's building connection and engagement in a foundational way to move forward with their LED strategy. So my kudos to them.
Thanks, Rebecca. And you're absolutely right. And I guess my hope and my desire for the colleagues in South Africa at the close of this project is perhaps to think about how it is that they maintain some of these systems of engagement. And you're right, when you come back with a shopping list, you actually have to go back at some stage to clarify what can be done, what can't be done, so that you maintain that piece of work, that ongoing loop. And the piece about connecting with community, this is an ongoing piece of work. Through BIGM, we've established these pieces, we've created connections, but they need to be ongoing. And of course, throughout this entire piece of work, Jeremy, there has been this piece about the commitment to do the work. We've seen it in this initiative with Kucha and Prince Edward County. We see it across the municipalities that all the time the officials have come out and supported by the political leadership to do what is right by the project and by those communities. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Thank you, Todd. Jeremy, back to you.
Thank you, Kubeshni. So that's bringing our first chat and reflection between two partnering municipalities, Kolga from South Africa and Prince Edward County in Canada. My speaker, we're going to do the Betty Zandler for the two municipalities. Pinda Futi. Viva Big M. Thank you so much to this panel. I'm going to ask you, I can see you wanting to stretch. Everybody just stand up and have a nice stretch. Don't get too close to your neighbors. I know it's so strange. You love them even more by staying away, but just look at each other and enjoy each other's company. We're going to just change over in my lounge, and we're going to now tour a little bit, going a little bit east of where we are now to the Mushwa municipality and their partnership with Innisfil. So we just, Canadians, we're encouraging you to also stretch. This is the common human condition. You guys have been sitting in front of your computers. We are all sitting here looking at each other. Now we're standing. But you see, people are already starting to be not listening to me by going so close. Okay, right, well done. You can take your seats, have a sip of water. If you've got any peppermints left, I know normally by this time of the day, I've finished everything that's been given to me. But if you have some left, enjoy the last ones. Okay. We are going to start in Canada with this engagement, and then we're going to come to Mushwa. So, Kubeshni, I'm going to ask you to kick us off with some reflections from our Canadian colleagues.
Thank you, Jeremy. And we have one input from Innisfil this morning. We have Mr. Dan Taylor, and he's speaking from the perspective of an economic development catalyst. Dan, I'm hopeful that you are, there you are, Dan. Fantastic, welcome. And we're carrying on with the same theme, Dan, of just understanding what are these lessons, how did the successes emerge, what was the better practice, what are the legacy pieces, Dan, from your perspective, engaging with the South African colleagues. Over to you.
Thank you. You know, one of the legacy pieces I would say, and it's maybe echoing a little bit what Todd and the other folks said, is, you know, our countries are different, our economies are different, our actually ways of working are different. But we do face very similar challenges. And I really found that a lot of the work that we do, the fundamentals of that work seem to translate really well in Mushwa. So things like listening to the needs of your community. One of the things that I think we did a good transfer on is economic developer as consultant versus economic developer as doer, direct problem solver. So I think it's human nature when people are looking for help, in this case, economic development help from LED folks, that you want to like do the help versus provide the guidance and the networking. And it's not that our folks were networking and providing guidance and connecting, but I think they were going deep as well and maybe doing a lot more of the heavy lifting. And the problem with that is if you do heavy lift, it's now you're catching fish for people and feeding them versus teaching them to fish and allowing them to feed themselves for a lifetime. So I definitely think that was, you know, a key issue. I think as well, we were quite fortunate to lock into a honey opportunity where I've lost track, but a gold mining company, they've changed names, so I have the old name in my mind, but a gold mining company has some funding and resources available for Mushwa. And prior to that, they had come, well, prior to, and I think after that, depending on the visit, they had toured a specific honey facility here. So we were able to connect them with a live example of a thriving operation, an integrated operation, like vertically integrated, in terms of they harvest the honey, they turn it into a product, they distribute it, how they set up their factory, all these things. And so we're able to provide, like, again, sort of this guidance and resources. So as they're going through their project, they can certainly look at a Canadian or North American lens of how something like this might be set up, and then figure out how would that apply to Nushuwa and their situation. So I'll pause there. Happy to answer any more questions, and let me know if I actually answered your question correctly.
So one lesson, just one lesson that you would like to leave with the colleagues sitting in the room right now, as we close off this piece. What is that one thing that you learned together that you would say, guys, don't forget this one?
Okay. There's so many. I'm going to say opportunity analysis. So we do this naturally, or through our training, or through trial and error experience, what have you. And we created a chart or a table with a handful of questions. And so if an opportunity comes to you, there's, let's say, 5 or 6 check marks, and you look at each one and you go, okay, it's past the mark here. It's for example, I know Sino had experience where people were looking for money for a farm, but they didn't have land, they didn't have animals, they'd never farmed before. So that wouldn't pass the grade, because it's not really an opportunity, because those people weren't qualified, for lack of a better term. So I think the opportunity analysis, it allows the professional to go, okay, this is a real opportunity and we can play a role, or it's not an opportunity at all and perhaps we can assist and guide, or the opportunity is not quite ready yet and we can assist in getting the investor ready to take advantage of that opportunity. So I think opportunity analysis, which is it's an assessment tool to see whether something's viable or has the potential or not.
I like that one. I like that one, because that both guides the municipality in terms of the role that it plays, but it also can save them a lot of time and resources, because clearly, not all opportunities are equal. And if we expend resources on all of them, we might be missing out on something that is really a worthwhile piece. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Jeremy, I'm handing over back to you in our venue.
Thank you very much, Gubeshni. And let me welcome to my lounge my new visitors. I have with me 2 LED practitioners from Nushuwa Municipality, Ms. Joanna Gwanduli, who specializes in local economic development, and Ms. Sinovoyo Shoko, who specializes in agriculture. And then with them is Craig Goliath, who is a director from COGTA. So he is one of the departments, from one of the departments that supports municipalities. But let's start with our practitioners. You've been on this journey of Big M over the last few years. And let's start with you, Sinovoyo. What would you say have been, well, I suppose my question's in 2 parts. What has been the biggest successes arising from this partnership? And you might want to reflect on some of the tools that you might have used. And also, how do we know that Big M has been to Nushuwa? What are you taking away? That was the one that the mayor had. So maybe it's broken now. No, sorry. I don't know if it's on. Let's have a look. Maybe we can't share microphones anymore. There we go.
I think it's on. Is it working? Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. For me, one of many things that I have learned throughout my journey of 4 years, firstly, is the leadership role from our Canadian counterparts from the town of Innisfil. When we visited Innisfil in one of our missions, I identified that within the municipal staff in their local economic development unit, they mainly focus on leadership skills and invest on human resources in terms of ensuring that the municipal staff are experts on their work or offices, which means that they're able to take a leading role in each and every activity that they are undergoing. So understanding your role as an LED practitioner or an LED consultant makes you to be able to know the role of the municipality in each and every opportunity that comes within the municipal space. Just like Dan has already alluded that they shared with us a tool that is called an opportunity analysis. So when there is any type of local economic development project or opportunity that comes within the municipal space, as an LED consultant or practitioner, you firstly need to identify the opportunity. What is it that who is coming within the municipality, and how is the municipality going to gain from that opportunity? And also identifying the role of the municipality in that type of an opportunity that is introduced. We came across an activity where, when we were implementing our entrepreneurial ecosystem, we find ourselves in a situation where we thought of having a tool that is called a communication strategy to communicate the ecosystem with stakeholders. And we had to work with a third party, which is getting a consultant. But with the core of having leadership skills from our Canadian counterparts, they also took us through a journey of learning what it means to take a leadership role in your workspace, to say, even if there's a third party that is introduced in any type of activity that the municipality wants to achieve or project, you need to take a leadership role to say you are even leading the service provider in whatever that the municipality is trying to achieve. And in some cases, you will have to be able to know and understand when the service provider is not clear with the type of a service that you want to achieve. For example, we were not familiar with the situations where you will have to invite the service provider for interviews. But we came across a situation and we introduced to say, you can invite the service provider and interview them to see whether they understand specifically what you are looking for. And in that way, you are leading them, as well as also checking on other services that they have rendered that are related to what you are looking for. And also not to be feared, not to fear a situation to say, when a service provider has bidded, and to say, as much as you have experience, but I don't think you are familiar to what I am looking for, or you will be able to deliver exactly what I'm looking for. So in that way, you are taking a leadership role to say, this is what I'm looking for, rather than appointing service providers and giving them all the work to do, and find yourself in a situation where they'll give you a tool or a document to implement in which you were not part of developing or forming. So those are one of the highlights that I personally have learned from the town of Innisfil. One of the biggest situations is the honey project, where we implemented our ecosystem. We've learned from a success story of an entrepreneur in the small town of Innisfil, and we acknowledge that even us as Mosha, we also have honey producers, but our honey producers are not developed. So as local economic development consultant or practitioners, we then were given a chance, led by our Canadian partners, to say, now you need to map up the honey ecosystem. What type of resources do you have within the honey ecosystem, identifying the gaps that we have within the honey ecosystem and the opportunities, and then finding our role on how can we best find solutions to bridge the gaps and then connect our honey entrepreneurs. Today, we find ourselves in a situation where we think we have succeeded, if I may share, in terms of saying what makes me think that we have succeeded in this activity and utilizing our ecosystem is to say we've created new relationships with external stakeholders, both private and public. We now have relationships with training colleges like your Port Cox Agricultural College. They've just introduced honey or apiculture as one of their activities. Then we were able to link our businesses or our farming or our honey entrepreneurs with that opportunity, as well as with University of Forte. Then that says for us creating new partnerships out of the entrepreneurial ecosystem is one of the success stories. And we also received good news that our honey actually is, the quality is a top quality from a private company that asked for samples to test the quality of honey that is produced in Moshwa. So that's a success for us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sinovuyo. And I love the idea of Moshwa has the sweetest honey, and I think, it will be lovely to be stopping as you drive through and tasting that honey as we go forward. It's interesting, the commonalities of it. The scale might be different, but the importance of partnerships, relationships, forming those linkages is coming out as such as a strong theme. Joanna, let's hear from you. What has this journey been like for you, and what tools and what lessons have you learned?
Thank you, Jeremy. What I take away as a significant learning for me.
So hold on. Okay, I just want to check if the microphone is reading properly with the tech team. Okay, I think it sounds like it is. Maybe you can just take it quite close.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. What I take away from this journey is that at the beginning of the program, SALGA assisted us municipalities to develop a gender strategy, wherein I got to interact with the gender issues that I was not previously aware of. And it was not just myself that was not aware of gender issues within the municipalities, but other offices as well. Again, the development and adoption of our inclusive local economic development strategy. And I think it's a takeaway, because within our LED strategy, we have a strategic pillar that talks to women empowerment and gender issues. And within that pillar, we have indicators that are assisting and bringing in our vulnerable groups to participate within the local economy. So our local economic development strategy was designed in such a way that it caters the needs of both men and vulnerable groups. Furthermore, say again the development of our main tool, I will call it the main tool because that is where our project was focused. The entrepreneurial ecosystem that we use as LED to grow and sustain our local businesses. And within the ecosystem, we have resources that are relevant to the growth and also the development of our SMEs. We felt that the ecosystem is our only solution to the challenges that our business community was facing, because they did not have enough information as to how can they sustain what they already have as their business community.
Thank you very much, Joanna. I understand what you were talking about this role of LED consultant as opposed to doer. I was thinking, because consultants often have a bad name in South Africa, but the advisor, the connector, the strategizer, and not necessarily competing with the business community. So I think that's really helpful. And I love this concept, Joanna, of the ecosystem, how everybody links together in that. Craig, you are not in the municipality, but I was struck by something you said, I think in Kocha last week. I felt like I was at some kind of a sort of local government revival at one stage, because you were talking about a new breed, I think, of local government practitioners who sort of get through the current constraints that we're facing. And I was just thinking, Joanna, as you're talking about your strategy with the pillar of women empowerment and indicators, it felt real. It didn't feel like you were satisfying the AG with an APP or SDBIP with a number of. It was something that there was a bit of a heart behind. So, Craig, I mean, where you sit as COGTA, supporting municipalities, what are your reflections and takeaways from this BIGM experience?
Thanks very much.
Please feel free to use the mic as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeremy. Much more clearer now. I think for me, as a takeaway from this program, is the shock in the arm. And I think it's probably a tongue-in-cheek at the moment, because we're all going through the shock in the arm as a result of COVID. But I think that as from a municipal perspective, and also probably from a provincial perspective, we had this stereotyped view that the role of the municipality is primarily focused on ensuring that there is water supply, that there is electricity supply, that our town is clean, and that the municipality is functioning, which is important. But all of these things contribute to one important aspect, and that is the well-being of the citizens. And we will do all of those things as best as we can. But we need to focus and remember that the economic livelihood of the individuals are just as important as the streets that we walk on and the electricity that we supply. And so the program for me was a bit of a shock in the arm, because it gave everyone a bit of a wake-up call to say that the local economy, the economy of the region, the economy of the town is just as important. And if we do not make sure that what we're doing, the supply of the water, the supply of electricity, the sanitation, the systems, if it doesn't take us forward and ensure that our local people have an employment, that they run their businesses more efficiently, then we've lost the plot. You know, we're blindsided by what is equally important. So for me, when working in the BIGM program and looking at the tools that's being developed, our colleagues earlier spoke about the opportunity analysis. We've been discussing the issue around business retention and expansion programs. It reminds us that the economy is important and integral part of your municipality. And I think just listening to the mayor speak of the size of the LED unit and how the unit itself has been given a more important role to play. Looking at the discussions that people had with local business and realizing that, you know, we need to be doing this more often. We need to be continuous with this engagement, because this is the people that actually drive this local economy. This is our ratepayers. We need to be able to listen to what their needs are and develop our economy around those issues. I think other things that we picked up, you know, just to do a retrospection on what does it actually cost to run a business in a town? You know, what does it cost you to run a business? How do we make sure that in our business retention and expansion program, we ensure that our town is actually quite competitive compared to any other town? Remember that often businesses have the opportunity to pack up and move. And one of the things they often do when they do that is they do a comparison and they say, okay, if I'm in this town and it's costing this much, what does it cost me to move to another town and to start a business elsewhere? What's the cost of doing business? And I think in the discussion that I picked up very, very strongly today, and as well as the
in the program itself is that it's actually cheaper to look after the businesses that are there in your town currently. And this is where you start running instead of chasing new opportunities. First and foremost, start with the businesses that are right on your doorstep and that are already creating the employment opportunities. And you will see by supporting them, you'll be able to create even more opportunities just by supporting those businesses. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much, Craig. It really is the invitation for a bit of a mindset shift. I'm going back to Councillor Tringo, your points this morning around Big M has brought out the best in us. That which sits in so many of, no one was born without something and a gift. And we often hide those because we think we tell ourselves all sorts of things. But this is saying, bring your best forward. We can build relationships, we can change attitudes, and there's a whole lot of technical tools and techniques we can use, but without the attitude to connect and partner, we're not going to get anywhere and grow our economies. And I think the example now of Mushwa, where we're hearing about the ecosystem, the importance of strategy, the importance of working with what you've got, not, I'll tell a very brief anecdote. I used to sit on a local economic development board in a municipality in the Eastern Cape, which doesn't exist anymore. It's part of the mergers. But one of my fellow board members said we should create this town to look like Sandton City. And I just thought, I don't think so, because it's not the essence of what the small town is. The small town needs to be the very best small town it can be so it can grow. Start with where you are and grow from there, not try and leapfrog to something that you're not. And I think this has also been the interesting experience of the partnerships between Canadian municipalities and South African municipalities. The context is different, the challenges are similar. And we are learning all sorts of useful things that we can do. And of course, there have been some great tools we've heard about: business retention and expansion, the first impressions tool, the FICE, interviewing people, continuing to build relationships, making links between stakeholders in the agricultural sector, looking at the whole ecosystem. These are all wonderful things we can apply. So let's do what they do in Matatiele and thank this panel, Mushwa Municipality, and also from Canada, our Innisfil colleagues there. Thank you so much. Let's put our hands together for these municipalities. Etizandla, I want Pinda Futi, Mushwa Hani. Okay. I don't know about you all, but I'm following a program, but it feels like a tea break time. I'm looking at the Salga team, but it's going to cause problems if I do that. So, Tebogo. Should we have a short tea break now and then run the next panels into the certification process? Or should I continue? Yes, please. Yes, you know these things more than me. What is that? I like the concept. I'm skeptical of the practice with this group. Is it possible to get a cup of tea and bring it in here? Yeah, can we do that? It's not a tea break when you then bring the tea in. It's a fetch your tea and return. Okay, I think that's a nice compromise. It's a working tea. Get your tea. Program director, how long does it take to fetch tea and bring it? Okay. Are we at one with this? Even if we're not, just listen to that speaker. Okay. Okay. There we go. Yeah, thank you. Do you want me to do it? Because I'm the only one who's been around here. But thank you. Let me just do this. Yeah, you can just leave those here. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, these are already, thank you. Thank you.
BIGM is a project that is funded by the government of Canada, which is Global Affairs Canada, in partnership with SALGA and Federation of Canadian Municipalities. The aim is to strengthen the capacity of our municipalities in South Africa, which they are going to be supported by other municipalities in Canada. The municipalities in South Africa, they are focusing on two components. One is local economic development. Two is climate change integrating asset management. This project is inclusive of women, youth, and vulnerable population, so that whenever we do our work, we are including the people that are supposed to benefit in all the work that municipalities are doing. The partnership are between 6 municipalities in Canada, 6 in South Africa, where they are getting a support through job shadowing and capacity building by their partners. The partnership is between the 6 municipalities, where they are focusing on components 1,000 and components 2,000. On components 1,000, it's a Koga local municipality, Bizana, Nushua, and Kinsabata and Dalinjemo. And on climate change and asset management, it's 2 municipalities, which is Dlambe and Port St. John's, which they are focusing on asset management and climate change for the program. They are being supported by the following municipalities, which is Stratford Caraddock, Bizana as their partner, Port St. John's, Fredericton, Kinsabata Dalinjebo, they are partnered with City of Surrey, Nushua, they are partnered with Innisfield, Dlambe, they are partnered with City of Orawa. Lastly, it's Koga partnered with Prince Edward Country. Building inclusive green municipalities aims to strengthen the capacity of our municipalities in Eastern Cape to ensure that they build the capacity within their municipality through geographical information system, through regional economic development, through asset management and climate change. The aim is to ensure that our municipalities have capacity to be able to develop plans, strategy, and implement those plans where they'll be including vulnerable population, women, youth within their project. Thank you very much.
The interesting thing about Prince Edward County and the Canadian municipalities is the approach to local economic development. They have a very interesting inclusive approach where they include vulnerable groups in terms of the planning. These vulnerable groups include women, it includes the youth, and it also includes the disabled. The approach to local economic development is through a gender-based analysis where they consider the value that women can add in terms of economic development, in terms of their strategy and how they plan. They also use a tool that they call the business retention and expansion tool. Through this tool, they keep a pulse on how the local businesses grow and how do they retain and expand that business. They also include another tool that they call the first impressions community engagement tool. And Director Mabusela, who's sitting right next to me, she will introduce herself. She will expand on that tool.
what stands out for them is their tools, as they have been mentioned by the mayor, with the interesting tool that I can expand on, additional to the ones that he has mentioned, is the First Impressions Community Engagement Tool, which basically is another consultative tool to establish what the people who are interacting with the municipality are thinking of the municipality. Do we meet the expectations? If you hear, for example, of Kocha or Jeffreys Bay as a safe town, what is the impressions there? Are we doing enough to expand on that expectation or that brand, and or what are the other areas that we need to improve on? As a way of example on that tool, when we implemented it in one of our big events, which is the surfing tournament that comes through the Winterfest, one of the responses that we, or common responses, was we expected more signage around this event. So those are the things that you pick up. And so when you are developing your LED strategy, you are more responsive to the information that you have gathered.
We've also, through these partnerships and through the development of our LED strategy, we've also engaged in public-private partnerships. I think the one significant partnership is that we're developing a biomass plant for bio-harvesting. This will unlock so many opportunities for small and micro businesses because the capacity of the plant will probably allow about 40 to 50 small businesses to develop. In terms of that project, the SMMEs will probably earn something like up to 180,000 Rand per month. And this is very significant because if our SMMEs, 40 to 50 SMMEs, can grow in this particular way, it allows them to expand on and diversify on other businesses.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I think just additionally to that, we as a baseline document or a foundation document, we developed the LED strategy, which has been a full process that has gone through the year with inclusivity involved. And we've been also ensuring that the gender-based assessment in terms of the tool that we adopted from the Canadians was also factored in that process of developing the LED strategy. We are currently having in our budget now projects that are filtering out of that process.
Our first visit to Prince Edward County was around about 2018 when the partnership started, and I was very privileged to visit Prince Edward County and meet our counterparts on that side. The benefit to that was that we could start the project in terms of, then it was LED as well as asset management. But the most significant thing was the on-site visits. We would like to give our heartfelt gratitude.
Okay. Let me invite the panel from Winnie-Madikizela Mandela Local Municipality. Please come up and join my lounge. Nivile Singakala, please, toch. I'm worried about Councillor Mshukwana because I think if I don't start now, she's going to discipline me, and then I'm going to have to discipline people that I can't, I've got no powers to discipline. Yeah. Is she also your speaker? Okay, good. Okay. You can stop the video feed, please. I'm starting. Let me, Madam Mayor is with us. Is Mr. Mahlaka? Yes. Okay. Let me invite Mr. Luvuyo Mahlaka and Ms. Nobatle Bikli, the pastor. We are going to start. Kubeshni, I hope that you are there. We're going to be joined from Canada by Mr. William Dakin. And I'm going to get us going. Would you like applause as you arrive in my lounge? Doesn't it feel like we want to? Let's welcome all of us back from tea. This is the municipality on the furthest east municipality of the Eastern Cape. Bolelo, can I start? Okay. Welcome back, everybody, and well done. Well done for doing the almost impossible. I think, you know, we are getting better and better. We're bringing out the best in us. Thank you, Councillor Mshukwana. That was leading from the front with a clock. Okay. So we are going into our next our next talk show. And let me welcome, as I've said, our delegation from Winnie Madikizela Mandela local municipality, the only municipality in Big M to change names and keep the mayor. So let's say big up to for this Big M municipality. And it's a very interesting story, I think, that you've got to tell on your Big M experience. So we're going to hear from Madam Mayor, Councillor Theodora Mafumbata, and we're going to hear from the municipal manager and also our pastor, who also goes by the title of Director Planning and LED. So we can get a nice spread of experiences there, and we'll hear from William Dakin as well, your counterpart in Canada. But let's start in Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Kubeshni, I can see you there. I'm glad that you are good. I know we've got some time issues, but I think you want to say something. Yes.
I do, Jeremy. I'm aware that we have Mr. Zanathola Futwa from SELGA, who's just going to give us a little bit of a framing piece before we get to the meat of it. So if I may, can we invite Mr. Futwa to unmute and share himself?
You're so right, Kubeshni, and this is why it's so good to have two facilitators, because sometimes the very most important thing you're supposed to do, you don't do. So Zanukolo, very good to see you again. When I worked in Amatola, you worked in Chris Hani. It's wonderful to see you. So please, Zanukolo, give us some opening remarks on this. And I'm going to encourage you to be what I know you are, which is to the point and profound. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I note the time pressure, so perhaps what I'll do is to raise 4 points and just a concluding remark. I align myself with the protocols. I think the first point is the relationship dividend. We've heard from many speakers how useful this relationship has been to them, and that the lesson is that we need to make sure that as municipal planners and LED managers, we take these clear tools that have emanated out of this relationship, tools for initiating LED plans, and also ensuring that we are able to intentionally create asset management, natural asset management planning, and infuse that into our plans within our municipalities, and also to improve greater involvement of our communities, particularly the vulnerable groups. That's the first point that I think we need to take on. The second point is on the significance of the Big M in unlocking strategies for economic regeneration and also catalyzing locally driven responses to economic challenges. What we have seen over the years of this partnership is a growing awareness of inclusion of and alertness to the need to prepare our municipalities and incorporate strategies for SDG localization in our participation and in our plans, and also building sustainable resilience between the participating municipalities and also the concept that we've introduced where we partnered stronger entities with weaker entities. For example, the partnership that we brought in through bringing in Kucha and aligning it with a localized municipality that's struggling to assist to develop project-based capacity building. I think my colleague Nozi has addressed the issues around the component of empowering vulnerable groups. I won't repeat on that. And the third point I want to raise is with regards to connections between the thinking in the country with regards to local economic development and what we have been able to unearth through this partnership. If you wind back your minds to 2019 on the same venue where you are, we invited Deputy Minister Nell, who was able to map out the linkages between what we've been thinking in South Africa as captured in the 2019 SONA injunctions and the objectives of the Big M. And I think it is important that we build onto that so that we can be able as local government to start ensuring that we've got a structured alignment of resources and resource mobilization across spheres, and also ensuring integration, because we've got points of connection that have been increased by this partnership instead of points of diversion. And one of those points is specifically with municipalities that are under component 1000 OR Tambo. On the RED program, the Red Hub program, we have been able through this program to also feed into the budgeting and planning processes of the Eastern Cape government, wherein a dedicated amount of resources have been allocated to implementing the Red Hub initiatives within the OR Tambo municipality. And over 200 million rands already has been allocated to that process. And I think it is important that this momentum is not lost. So therefore, it is important that we should be able to then have a very clear impression of the benefits that arose out of this program and ensure that we do not lose on these. The last point before the conclusion is where to from here. And I think it is important as we conclude on this very important relationship to ensure that from our side as SALGA, we put these lessons into a written publication so that it can inform continuous learning objectives as well as replication from this process into other municipalities. Mbulelo, my colleague Tebucho, would recall that we had started to do that by linking this to processes in other provinces where we've started to say, even though formally they weren't part of the 6 municipalities, we must bring out of the Big M lessons that we can immediately replicate. He was part of processes, for example, in the Greater Lijole-Putswa district municipality in another province called Free State, in which we're beginning to do this process. The second issue there is around integrating the critical lessons of the Big M to existing regional and economic growth programs. And these are the specific ones that we must put in mind, particularly as the Eastern Cape province, the Karoo Regional Initiative, and the Small Town Regeneration Program, the Rural Development Program, the Township Regeneration Program, and what I think is something for food for thought, which is a proposal, Ambassador for Hope Program, where we have municipalities that participate in a peer learning space as ambassadors for hope, drawing the lessons that they have gained from this process and sharing these lessons within their greater districts and regional areas. And that would also be something that could be our contribution in the institutionalization and providing impact on DDM. The Winnie Madikizela Mandela on its Red Hub program could be a very good example, for example, on what we can do within OR Tambo as well as Alfred Nzo municipality. Kuha, Dr. Bayasno there within the Greater Karoo Regional Initiative. And in conclusion, without taking a lot of time, it is important that we consolidate what we've gained. The Red Hub model has proven itself as a mechanism that is effective in addressing structural economic challenges for poverty alleviation and transformational imperative, particularly inclusion of marginalized communities as well as vulnerable groups in our municipalities. The second lesson is that the lessons learned from here are quite real and tangible. So we are now left with a legacy of very practical tools as planners and as local economic development officials on how we can be able to lead our municipalities, lead in our spaces by putting together very intentional programs that must assist to regenerate our economies. And the proposal around that I need people to take as we move out of this is OR Tambo area, consolidate and try and ensure that we play a lead program in catalyzing the Red Hub program. All other municipalities, including Ngqusha and other municipalities that are on component 1000, we consider a proposal to our councils to develop and adopt longitudinal strategies for economic regeneration, such as, for example, a 2030 LED strategy, which must be part of the 6th administration that we are going to introduce after October of this year. Thank you very much, Jeremy. In the context of timeframes, I think I will limit myself to that.
Thank you so much, Sanokolo. And you set us up very nicely to start talking about some of the initiatives that happened in Winnie Madikizela Mandela municipality as a consequence of Big M. So I have my 3 questions to 3 representatives. And Madam Mayor, I'm not sure if I'll get the protocol wrong, so I don't know if I should ask you to speak first or last, but I'm going to invite you just not to worry about that. So if that's okay, I'm going to ask the questions in this way. I'm going to ask Mr. Matlaka to start give us an overview of the journey of Big M. What have been the good practices perhaps that have emerged and the lessons that you're taking away? And then Ms. Beakley, I want to ask you about the tools. What have you actually started to apply, and what are some of the tangibles that you have seen as a result of the partnership? And then, Madam Mayor, I want you to speak about, as the political leader of an area, almost as a legacy point of view, what makes you proud to have been associated with Big M? And what do you think what would you say if I visited your municipal area and you said, it gives me great pride to introduce you to a municipality that's been part of Big M because ... So in other words, how do we know we've gone into Big M country? So let's follow it in that order, if that's all right. And then Kubeshni will ask Mr. William Dakin some questions too. So Luvuyo, let's start with you. Councillor Mshukwana, I don't know if there's a disruption in the house, but maybe Luvuyo, you're protected. So these are career limiting statements for anybody that wants to go to that school. Luvuyo.
Thanks, Jeremy. And let me extend greetings to the entire leadership present and those that are joining virtually.
Can we just put the mic a little closer?
Beautiful. Let me extend greetings, Jeremy, to you and as program director and the leadership entire here physically. As indicated from starting with the journey, yeah, it has been a fruitful journey with a lot of lessons, of course, with challenges, because it captured a change of culture, the way we do things and the way the Canadians do things, so that we can be able to produce a hybrid on how to move forward. As part of that, Jeremy, we agreed to prioritize 3 interlinking interventions, which we believe strongly that they will do the positive harm, or the positive contribution that we wanted in the form of fighting poverty, unemployment, and bringing vulnerable groups into the picture of the economic development. So I wanted to, which is mainly around saying institutionally we have a strategy, but with that we needed to see whether our structure conducting an intense organizational review as part of the process. Then we said, after doing so, we needed to identify and then say, let's integrate our businesses. Let's also in the process ensure that we replicate good practice, which is the Rural Economic Development Hub in design. So that has been the journey, and we learned a number of useful lessons as we understanding how best to work with communities, how best to understand business needs, and conceptualize them into a response mechanism that is coordinated, that replicates the benefit of the program that we do. So having said so, I think in lending, it is just to emphasize the fact that the entire journey has been indeed a rewarding one in the sense that we have intangibles and tangibles. In the intangible sense, because the program is more about capacity building, ensuring that people think properly in terms of business models and how to move forward, and ensuring that they are capacitated to do business differently and to assist the municipality to move forward in terms of putting in the mainstream of what we do people from vulnerable groups, women, youth, and people living with disabilities. So that has been that kind of a journey, and I'm certain that with the practical beneficiaries that we have, people that are in business that are able to tell us what is it that the program has contributed. Indeed, it gives us pleasure and comfort that the program was useful and the program will be replicated and move on from this point. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Luvuyo. Nobahle, I don't know if everybody knows what the Red Hub is. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the tangibles and application of the tools that you've been involved with in this journey?
Thank you, Jeremy. When you come to Red Hub, as you have said, you want to know the entire name is Rural Enterprise Hub, where we're processing meals and the production. The tools that we've used in the Red Hub replication, you must understand, Jeremy, Winnie-Madikizela Mandela is diverse in terms of having different components in agriculture. So in terms of Rural Enterprise Hub, we wanted to replicate, but the tools that we use in Red Hub was the issue of redefining the governance structure within the rural enterprise, because our structure was not right. Now the municipality, in terms of the cooperatives that are there, in terms of the governance, so now we're part of the governance structure. So that was very important. So the framework detail, from starting from the land perspective to a farmer coming to the Red Hub, where you produce your meals, and then to the production part of it. So it was the redefining and the governance part, which is the tool that was saying there is a framework that is written that our Canadian counterpart have assisted us in spite of character. They are the best in agriculture, although they were clear that it taken them so many years. We must not be frustrated about the time that we're going to take to see the change.
Fantastic. I love that last point around being patient and not trying to. It's almost like sometimes we want to run onto the field at the finals of a soccer tournament and win the game. Whereas what it sounds like you've been doing is taking a step back and saying, what do we need to do to put in place the systems and structures to enable us to get the results that we want? So that's very interesting indeed. And I also understand that in developing the Red Hubs, it was not all, it's not like a simple success story. You stop, start, reflect, grow, break through some of the challenges. Do you want to just say a little bit about some of those challenges?
The little of the challenge was in the asset that we're having in the Red Hub, because we have big machinery, Jeremy, that we didn't understand that the machinery that we invested there need an asset management plan and issues of climate change, because seasons and planting, they were changing. So we needed to incorporate the asset management plan as well as issues of climate change. So on the component of the LED, whatever you put, those components are important, because machinery did appreciate. So what do we do? We need to separate those components. So these were the things that we're focusing just on producing milli, not the component that is the investment in the Red Hub. So with the asset management, we put that component, so it was encapsulated. So now we understand that within the Red Hub,
we have the component of asset management that the board members must be aware of how much they have invested on that.
Thank you. And I also want to, before I come to you, Madam Mayor, I want to just also acknowledge that in our virtual audience, which we can't always see, we still have the president of FCM with us. So I think she, of course, was such a key ally and friend and explorer with you on this. So I just want to acknowledge and thank our Canadian counterparts, particularly the president, for staying with us still. But coming to you, Madam Mayor, Big M, what has the journey been like for you from where you sit? And how do we know that when we cross into your municipal area that you have benefited from the Big M experience?
Thank you very much, Jeremy.
I think it's wants to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeremy. I think I understand that you have said that we were not supposed to create the protocol issues. But I think let me take that opportunity because the president of FCM, which is my colleague and my partner, which is my twin in Statoil Karadoy. So I need to greet her and say that because that the Winnie Madikizela Mandela is part of the journey. When they are seated there as in the board as the president, we should look on extending the program. Because when you talk about the replication, we as Winnie Madikizela Mandela who have seen it, we're not talking about something that we don't know. Because firstly, Jeremy, we're having one red hub, but as we are talking now, we're having about 4 red hubs in the area on different categories. And also, if you are entering the area where the Winnie Madikizela Mandela, you will first see the name saying that we are welcoming Winnie Madikizela Mandela. As my colleague was saying in the morning, Umama Uting. And also, the other thing that you can see when you get in the municipality, the love that we have, and also if you talk with our stakeholders, all our stakeholders, if you go to the taxi rank, you will see our hawkers, they have got love. When you say to them, they must speak about the municipality, they can talk about the municipality. I think the Provincial Executive Committee of SALGA can attest that. And also, we have got in the same program, we have also in all our wards, we have taken the data, and also we have employed the graduates. Before we were not aware that we can be able to take the data for all our graduates. I think in 2 weeks back, I was having a conference with the unemployed graduates, about 800 of them, with the data that we have got from our students that they were on the ground. And that one we have copied from the program that we're doing it with the Statoil Karadoy. And also one another thing that we can say as the municipality, the leadership of SALGA knows that. I think we want to say we're proud because as the council of 62 councillors, we use, when we're doing the visual meetings, there will be no collapse of the meetings because all our councillors, they are able to use their gadgets, that is their laptops. And also, even if you go to the last person in the institutions, those that they are outside, if you talk about the municipality, they will be able to narrate a story because we talk about the inclusiveness of the things that we are doing in all the departments. But before we're doing the things in silos, but now we're doing together. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. And Kubeshni, I'm going to ask you to come in now. I was going to say Kubeshni, who's with us from Strathroy Caradoc. I keep on wanting to say Strathroy Caladocwe. For the Canadians, Cradock is the name of a town in Eastern Cape, which in Xhosa is Caladocwe. And let me, Kubeshni, as I'm handing over to you, I couldn't help but notice when the mayor of Strathroy Caradoc, who's now the president of FCM, was talking, she had a bunch of flowers behind her. And those flowers are arum lilies. And arum lilies come from South Africa. I don't know if that was intentional or whether it's just the way the world is, but I think this partnership has gone into all kinds of ways we don't expect. But Kubeshni, over to you.
Clearly, Jeremy, your eyes are so much better than mine, not to mention your knowledge of South African flowers. So I don't know if there were arum lilies, but we have the opportunity to ask Madam Mayor. And I can see that we have William online and we have Joanne van der Hayden as well. Thank you so much, guys, for remaining with us on this call. And we're going to chat now with your mayor cap on, Ms. van der Hayden. And so curious, you know, Tankola started and he was talking about these legacy pieces, and clearly they're very practical legacy pieces that BIGM has left with us. And they're also very intangible pieces that I'm sure have touched you in Canada and clearly has connected with our audiences in South Africa. Let me start with you, Madam Mayor, and give me a sense as to what some of these lessons, these tangible or intangible pieces might have been from your perspective.
Well, thank you for the question. From the very beginning, we had an incredible relationship. Everybody just bonded. We knew we were there for a purpose, and that purpose was accomplished. Sometimes we had to take a few steps back, but most often we were taking steps forward. And I know that's important because sometimes you need to debrief and figure out, you know, is this the right path we're taking? And I'm not going to answer very many of these questions. I'm going to go right to Bill because he's been our absolute rock and our conduit to all of our friends in Africa and South Africa. And he's been just amazing. One of the pieces I wanted to point out was that each time that we had a delegation go, we had people on that delegation that were the right people at the right time to get the project moving forward. Whether that was our engineer, whether that was our economic development officer, whether that was our counselor that is an agriculture expert, because it wasn't about me, it wasn't about Bill, it was about how we as a team in Strathroy Caradoc could bring everything forward and bring things back to us. And I think that's the key. So I'm going to send it over to Bill for the rest of the answer.
Fantastic. William, and straight over to you. Right person, right time. Tell us about your piece in relation to this piece of work.
Thank you again, and thank you to the mayor. She has been the other half of the rock that kept this program on track. And those flowers are actually her husband's handiwork. Apparently, he's got the green thumb in the family. And she is a very good portrayer of those flowers throughout the municipality, not only in the offices, but to her neighbors. So it's neat to see that. But for us, as the mayor said, it was a connection like none other when we first met. It's almost like we had kindred spirits before we even met. And it was just amazing to sort of work through with our sister municipality in South Africa, some of the things around this, the Red Hub and the business incubator, and both receptivity on both sides. I think one of the clear things that we saw when we went to South Africa was the value of having an economic development officer, and we didn't have one in our municipality. And when we came back, that was the first order of business to get that economic development officer in place. So kudos to our partner in South Africa for spurring us on to an employment program here where we've actually got now an economic development officer. The other thing that really stood out to me was the stakeholder engagement that was taking place in South Africa. our sister municipality there was very good at engaging the stakeholders in the municipality and finding out exactly, listening to what their needs were and then meeting those needs. And that was key in moving forward with that business incubator that we have developed there. Again, businesses are in that incubator at different levels. Some are just starting off, others are semi-established, others are well-established and growing. But again, I think the key there is partnership. The partners that they've brought to the table, whether it's CETA or the business chamber, you name it, there's partners that are assisting in developing that relationship with the incubatees, as we call them, in the business incubator. And it's been a real joy and a humbling experience for us here in Canada to come and just come alongside shoulder to shoulder with the municipality there and see them pick up the heavy load and carry it forward. And so we're very, very impressed by our partners and very proud of our partners and the things that they've accomplished.
Thank you very much, William. And Jeremy, you can see a lot of these themes are recurring. It's the connection piece. It's a reminder, actually, that from a knowledge management and knowledge exchange perspective, this is human work, you know. And so the relationships are important between us as partners, as peers. And clearly, as William has indicated, that extends too into the space of the partnerships that were formed. Understanding which partnerships, being able to attract the intergovernmental framework, and the stakeholder engagement piece of work. So I'm sure some of those themes will be reflected on in the House as well, as I hand over back to you. Thank you very much to William, and thank you very much to Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kubeshni. Certainly, this partnership really stands out as the partnership of people, of connection, of the heart. Such different, perhaps, geographies, perhaps such different kind of economic development contexts, but the commonality of humans doing something great and responding to the challenges of theirs and sharing knowledge. So that's fantastic. Let's give them, I think we can bet it out a little bit from the heart this time. It seemed like a real heart connection. So a warm applause to the partnership between Winnie Madikizela Local Municipality and Strathroy Caradoc. Thank you so much. Kubeshni, I'm sure you share with me there are many nice things about the job that we do. One of the not so nice things is that when you're interested to talk more about something, you have to move to the next thing. And I'm sure that all of you have had presentations today that you thought, I wish I could ask a little bit more. The bad news is that you can't ask right now, but the good news is that we are also connected, that you can ask at any time. Email, Zoom call. I know that in Winnie Madikizela Local Municipality, all the councillors can join you on Zoom, which is surely wouldn't have been the case a few years ago. We're going to move a little bit from the coast to a little bit inland to King Sabata Dalindyebo Municipality, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome the Executive Mayor, Councillor Nelani, to my lounge. I hope it's comfortable. I also want to welcome Mr. Owetu Panchwa, who's a director in the municipality there. And of course, the partner of King Sabata Dalindyebo in Canada is the city of Surrey. And we have Mr. Stephen Wu, I hope. I know that there were some time constraints and we've been running late. So if he's unable to join us, then we completely understand. But if he is, we will. In fact, let me rather say, Kubeshni, I know because of his time constraints, let's start with him if he's there, and then we will come to KSD and get their reflections. So Kubeshni, let's see if he's with you that side.
Jeremy, unfortunately, I don't see him here. I knew that there was a constraint because you were running over.
Okay.
And let me just give the back-end holders 2 seconds in case he's logged in as somebody else, but we heard from him earlier on last week, and I definitely don't see him here.
Okay, thank you, Kubeshni. So, you know, I often think if maybe I can give a personal reflection as I bring you in. If there's one complicated place to govern, I think KSD gives you every opportunity to express your strengths. Someone once said to me who's from there, if you can learn to drive in KSD, you can drive anywhere. So, Mr. Mayor, I hope you don't mind me introducing you like that, but the challenges are big there, and the opportunities are also big. So while I'm going to follow the same format of those kind of 3 questions, where I'm going to ask you, well, Mr. Mayor, it looks like it's just you and me, so we can really have a nice chat now. You've been on this journey, and surely there would have been some highlights. There would have been some times when you thought, sure, I wonder whether we're on track here. I wonder if we can change things. I wonder if we're compatible as these partners. And Ndlambe is not with us today, but I remember one of the delegates from Ndlambe said when they went to Canada, they were paralyzed by 2 things. The one was the cold, and the second one was like, what are we doing here? Because it's so different to where we're from. And then soon thereafter, they realized, actually, we are so similar. It's just that our built environment looks a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Mr. Mayor, about the journey, the highlights, what you learned on the way, and also how you've seen the Big M footprint almost taking shape in KSD. How would we know that Big M has been to your municipality? So let me start with you. I'll also come back to you for the last word afterwards. Thank you.
Perhaps, Jeremy, let me start where you have started. When you are looking at KSD, unfortunately, perhaps it's the advantage of KSD.
Mm.
We are a regional hub. Mm. We plan for 500,000 citizens, but we service more than 3 million. It means when you're looking at that, there and there, your strategies of planning, you need to adjust them so as to accommodate. I heard you talking about the chaos. You have to accommodate that chaos in your planning because of exactly that. Besides that, when you are talking about KSD, you are talking about a city of opportunities. By the way, that is the home of the icon, Nelson Mandela. That alone, it makes an advantage of King Sabata. The fact that we are a service center, as I've just said to you, we are servicing more than 3 million. So it means the buying power is booming. So you have to plan. You have to plan for those 3, in excess of 3 million. When it comes to the journey and our experiences, insofar as our partner, City of Surrey, we saw commonalities in both municipalities. We are aspiring metro, they are aspiring metro themselves. We want to be metro, the next metro. The next metro, and we're flatly driving that. But They have an edge. They're a third, of course, I'm in a first world country. We are a third world country in a way. Now, what we chose as something to work on, a project to work on with them, it really put us on an advantage in essence, in driving our agenda of changing the landscape of KSD. We work on the LED strategy, a beautiful document which was done collaboratively with a lot of stakeholders, departments internally, SALGA, you may name it. By the way, it was not done by consultants. It was done by grassroots partnerships. We worked closer. If you look at that document, it talks on 4 pillars. 4 pillars. A focus on the citizens, working on the relationship with the citizens, working on developing the capacity on the citizens. It talks about the second pillar being the processes. We focused on the processes. In so much that what you could see, the taste you can have now as a result of our partnership, we're advancing insofar as being a smart city. The smart city concept, we have started. We have cameras presently, which monitors what is actually happening in terms of, by the way, in one of the chaoses we started with, the issue of crime is high in KSD, and we are focusing on reducing that in essence. Now, so we are driving then that concept of a smart city using technology, cost effectiveness, and efficiency being the punchline of the smart city. So all the processes we are we're focusing on, they are dealing with cost effectiveness as well as efficiency. Our partner is big on business retention and expansion, and as well as the issue of investment attraction. So that's what we have also filtered in our business strategy, LED strategy. So in essence, Jeremy, I could say we have gained a lot. We have traversed from where we were years back up to now. So in essence, you could really, when you are coming into our city, you could see that all of us, and one thing which was not working for us is the stakeholder engagement. The identification of our stakeholders, stakeholder mapping, and as well as the structures which are there for mainstreaming gender. We focused on that in the years, and as well as we regulated our environment by focusing on bylaws as well as policy. That's what I can say. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So interesting, this point coming up about the importance of strategy that's developed by the municipality, not outsourced. Because, you know, there's that famous saying, plans are nothing, planning is everything. If it's a pretty document you want, you might as well just download one from the internet. But if you want a strategy, you've got to work it, and it's done by yourself. So I find it very inspiring. Thank you very much. Oetu Pantwa, you are more in the, you know, as an official, I'm sure translating some tools, techniques that you might have come across from the partnership. So from your perspective, what did you gain from being part of Big M, and what were some of the highlights and perhaps challenges that you went through?
No, thanks, Chairperson. I think from our side as KSD, we've gained a lot through this partnership. Firstly, we were capacitated in terms of how we go about doing our daily routines, also to be more efficient in terms of responding to requests, monitoring of new businesses that are opening. We have a tool that we developed that will assist us in terms of visiting businesses and also understanding the challenges that are faced by each business. However, what we have not achieved was, in terms of the tool, we should be reaching to all businesses within KST. We did not have a business licenses by law. So we have limitations in terms of ensuring that people are fully complying and people are able to pay monthly tariffs, you know, was giving them support. We monitor their buildings from time to time, and we also respond to challenges that most businesses are facing. So we managed to be assisted in terms of developing a business licenses by law. Previously, we were relying on Business Act of 1991, but the act has been repealed by national government. Unfortunately, that act was not included in the rationalization of laws in 1996. So that's why we felt let's use the constitution to develop this bylaw. This bylaw includes all the sectors. A person who has to open a business in town, they have to consult the municipality. When our planning division is approving building plans, they also give us the list of the plans that have been approved. Then we issue business licenses to ensure that each business that is in town is operating legally. But we have not reached all the businesses in rural areas, but we are working closely with our political leadership, our community structures, the traditional leadership, to ensure that all businesses are fully compliant. To date, we've derived revenue out of this exercise. That is just one element of the lessons that we learned. Secondly, we did not really have a guideline for our creative industries. Sometimes we have films being shot in KST, but our local communities were not benefiting. So we developed a filmmaking bylaw. That filmmaking bylaw allows for the traditional leaders to work closely with the municipality to give permits in any advert that is taking place along the coast. We are also saying in our bylaw, there must be clear opportunities that are outlined for our creative industries. We do not really have our local cultural festival. After our visit from the city of Surrey, we managed to host a Coffee Bay Cultural Festival. Within that festival, we managed to ensure that local small businesses are benefiting, our creative industries are also benefiting, you know, filmmakers and the crafters, and also the cultural groups. So out of that exercise, we managed to forge better working relations with those stakeholders. We also learned how they use geographic information system to gather the movements that are taking place in town and to also monitor everything that is to be developed. We're at a stage where we're developing the bylaw of the drone bylaw. We just want to regulate and ensure that everyone who operates a drone within the space of KST is able to report and we are also able to manage because a drone can be used for other motives. So that is what we have learned from our colleagues. And for the strategy development, like what the Executive Mayor was saying, we focused on 4 pillars. Those pillars are the guidelines of our strategy. Within those 4 pillars, we are clearly outlining exactly what each pillar should be doing. We said we are prioritizing KST citizens. Then we outline and categorize different population demographics that are within KST. And we also managed to gather the information that says the majority of our population is made of youth and children. They account for about 60% of the total population. So as we do our planning, we're informed by that statistical information. Though we experienced challenges when it comes to COVID-19, we could not really operate and to change our business operations as the institution, but we managed to conclude the strategy with the support of government departments, and we're also grateful of the support we got from SALGA as well as the support we're getting from FCM. We did have challenges in terms of speeding up the rollout of the program because we started the development of the LD strategies from 2017, but there were so many dynamics at play, we could not really conclude it on time. But our planning in terms of the programs that are earmarked for the next financial year, our planning is informed of what our LD strategy is saying, because we prioritized agriculture, prioritized tourism, as well as creative industries. So whatever we do as KST for economic development, we are measured against the priorities that are reflected in our LD strategy. I think those are areas that we managed to get the support for. So we're grateful of the work that is done to date. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, just emphasizing the importance of becoming proactive in addressing some of the real opportunities that you've got in your area and getting ahead of the curve rather than reacting to. Mr. Mayor, I want to give you the last word. I mean, I've heard from a number of mayors this morning that there's a date looming, is it October? Which is creating some anxiety. But if you were to reflect back and you were to say, I would recommend that other municipalities benefit from a Big M kind of initiative, what would you say was one of the big, like what would you say the thing I got out of it was? Just as a sentence, and it could be at any level, even from a personal level to kind of the whole KSD.
Of course, Jeremy, if we can work closer to whoever now in terms of developing the LD strategy, ins and outs of how do you go about developing a responsive LD strategy, which talks on the dynamics of the municipality of our size. Secondly, there's in City of Surrey, they've got strategies like a long table, wherein they invite all stakeholders to talk about local economic development, and as well as all the issues which are to do with local economic development. That they do it religiously, quarterly. We have adopted that, let alone that we don't have that long table, but the inclusive, the way we include all the stakeholders and engage them, let me say engage them extensively insofar as the subject is concerned. That stood out to me, Jared.
Thank you very much. And I know that the protocol is a protocol-free zone. So normally I would have asked you to have the last word, Mayor. But Oweto also wants to say something. And I'm so sorry to another member of our panel who's online, who I have not yet brought on, who I'm going to ask to make some just some comments from her side at the end. But you have the floor.
No, thanks, Chairperson. I think just to add one more thing, I think what we learned is how they work with the universities. There's a university called Simons Fraser in the city of Surrey. There's also a technical college. Immediately after our visit in 2018, we concluded agreements with Walter Sisulu University as well as with our KST TVET. Out of those partnerships, we managed to get the support for capacity building and also managed to get the support through the placement of the young graduates as well as people that are looking for internship. So that was one of the biggest improvements. As a result, out of all these partnerships with universities, with institutions of higher learning, we've also extended our partnership with DUT. They are ranked in the top 5 within South Africa. So we wanted them to assist us in terms of innovation. So in the work program with them, through that partnership, we were given about 12 million just to implement some of our human resource development programs. So we're grateful of many lessons we learned. Thanks.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Hey, when you reach out, things happen. And I'm going back to you, Councillor Klingo, around, it seems that this program has shifted the focus back to us and what we can do, not to say what do we need or what can they tell us that we don't know. Sure, there's a lot of that, but it really is generating from what's close to us. I mean, universities, TVET colleges, they're there. Why don't we use them? And are you doing that? So it's fantastic. Our last input will come from Dr. Vuyelwethu Nkohla. I'm sorry I hadn't brought you in earlier, Doctor, but just from your side as a support agency working with a municipality like KSD, what have been your main takeaways from the BIGM experience?
Thank you, Jeremy. Good afternoon, colleagues. I think I must say that one of the significant takeaways of the program was that the bottom-up approach adopted, which made sure that all stakeholders within KSD are made to be part of the process. In all the different stages, which is organizing, situational analysis, the strategy formulation and implementation plan of the review of the LED strategy for KSD, we made sure that the stakeholders were involved. Stakeholders' engagement was necessary in all different stages of the process for inclusiveness. The program used a developmental approach, making sure that the municipality was capacitated and skills were transferred. This was to make sure that the municipality eliminates outsourcing of work to consultants, which will reduce the cost of doing business and free some funds for implementation of programs in the LED strategy. The program also advocated for women empowerment, inclusion of youth and vulnerable groups within the mainstream economy. Also, another thing that I quite liked about the program was the importance of continuous monitoring and evaluating the progress of the project and making sure if there are any challenges encountered, the BIGM team is always available for support. I think, for example, sometime last year during lockdown period, it became difficult to finalize the LED strategies, the LED strategy, but the BIGM program made sure that they've extended the program and made sure that they provide us with data so that we can have weekly virtual meetings in order to finalize the strategy. And I think I'm grateful that the LED strategy for KSD was finalized in-house and presented to the council for adoption. The strategy was finally adopted by council. I think one of the things that I really take home is that to see any success in any project, the BIGM team, which is Debuho, Clarissa, and Kaya, showed us the importance of leadership, commitment, dedication, and patience. In concluding, we need to strengthen our partnership in order to enhance local economic development. we should be accessible to work together with municipal stakeholders such as the private, public, and community sectors to make informed decisions. Since LED supports the involvement of stakeholders, both private and community sectors are well positioned to promote networks and partnership within municipalities. LED is therefore not only an action of a single organization, but involves collective efforts of different stakeholders with a single plan and a purpose. As a result, pursuing partnership and network arrangement forms an important part of strengthening LED initiatives. LED seek the collaborative effort of local stakeholders to grow their local economies and improve the standard of living of local people. I would like to thank SALGA and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for the BIGM program. We have learned the importance of partnership, sharing the best practices from the other municipalities abroad, and the developmental approach adopted by the program. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I was just saying, I hope you can share your speech with us, because those last statements about encapsulating what LED is was so beautifully put, and a very nice kind of conclusion to today, and an articulation of the process that has been followed in KSD. And I think, you know, this evidence-based, contextually relevant, stakeholder-driven, proactive approach surely will yield the delivery that you seek. So let's join hands to say thank you so much to this wonderful partnership between KSD and Saray municipalities. We look forward to seeing what happens in KSD with this incredible strategy that they've developed. So, I'm losing my ability, Councillor Shukwana. I'm going to ask you to come back at the end just to clean up the technique. But we're coming to the end of this section of the day, and Kubeshni, I'm going to ask you just to reflect a little bit on some of the main points coming out for you, and also what's been going on in the chat on the Zoom call.
So some lovely thoughts on the chat just in the last couple of minutes, Jeremy, and I'll start with the piece from Mayor van der Hayden as she left us. She says, which I think should be the other T-shirt that we produce for this initiative. She says we can always get more done when we do it together. I think that's Tebogo's piece, isn't it? And here, so what are the headlines, Jeremy? I mean, for me, the headlines from the time we started this piece till today, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to go through to tomorrow, is firstly the nexus of relationships and partnerships. Yes. So that piece about relationships and partnerships just seems to be so central to this work. Then the commitment to the work, and your last speaker, the doctor, she had a beautiful list there. You're absolutely right. We should get her piece. She said patience, commitment, dedication. Yeah, absolutely spot on. This piece about reaching and engaging stakeholders. I need to cough. Thank you. Reaching out to stakeholders and testing our assumptions, okay? Because we might think that something is a lever in LED. We go out to our business community and something else emerges, okay? And then the other big theme is the ecosystem of things. This systems theory approach, Jeremy, that you and I deal with all the time, that one thing is connected to another thing and can have an unanticipated consequence in one case. So the ecosystem, all of these things hold hands. And then just this lovely piece from Noludwe. She says her comment, I think she had to leave as well. She says, beautiful reflection so far. I'm even emotional when I remember some of the initial engagements at Winnie Madikizela Mandela and the Strathroy Caradoc. Such passion for development. The program has come a long way. Well done to you all. So those are my parting words from this side, and just gratitude for the guys that have been online. Jeremy, some of our Canadian colleagues have been with us since we started. And of course, we have so many of our South African colleagues that have connected and remained connected throughout the day. So thank you very, very much, guys, for that presence.
Thank you, Kubeshni. So this is component 1000, inclusive local economic development. We have had a wonderful journey this afternoon, starting off with some inputs from Salga, from Nozi Makanda and Tebogo around the gender lens and Salga's perspective on municipal capacity programs. We've had some great engagements between the twinned municipalities, Kocha and Prince Edward, Mushwa and Innisfil, Winnie-Madikizela and Strathroy Caradoc, and KSD and Saray. There is so much more, but this is where we're going to stop now. We're going to look at component 2000 tomorrow, but I'm sure you've had a lot of information. It's been a fantastic experience to journey with you, reflecting on lessons learned, and I'm going to say that is all from me and Kubeshni, and I'm handing back to my program director, Councillor Mshokwana, who's going to give us a masterclass in the art of applause, and then we'll go into the final section of our program for today. Thank you very much, everyone.
It's a done. Who's that? Ari, who's that?
Thank you so very much, Jeremy. We will start with Betty Zandler for you and Kubeshni. But because we're here, we'll start the Betty Zandler for you, then Kubeshni, then our partners in Canada. So it's a very big round of applause, but it is controlled. Betty Zandler. Pinda futhi yenze njalo. Thank you very much. We have come to this point where there will be a signing of the pledge, where I believe all the mayors from all these municipalities should be coming forward, but I have noticed that some municipalities, their mayors are not present here. So I'm not sure, my friend, Councillor Chanda, what's going to happen, whether they mandated somebody because there's delegation. But if there's no delegation, then I believe there won't be. I'm not sure, Mr. Krug, whether you were delegated by BCM to sign, but Tebogo, you will indicate if anybody can sign on behalf of the mayor. There's no delegation on this thing, eh? Thank you very much. I've seen the pledge. There is anchors. It starts with Buffalo City, then followed by Nelson Mandela. So I'm not sure where's the deputy executive mayor. I'm not sure. He's not going to sign because he's the deputy in terms of this delegation, because he's the deputy executive mayor. Because the mayor, and it, yes, if I give mayors, mayor, oh, speaker about. Okay, we're starting with the anchors, ne? According to the list. So to make it look nice for the photo, I think there must be that nice sequence, not moving from the chair at that particular time. So we're starting with PCM. I understand PCM is not there. What then do we do, Tebogo? Doesn't somebody just stand there to make it? It's followed by Nelson Mandela. Can we? Nelson Mandela, then it will be followed by beneficiaries. We're going to start with King Sabata, KSD, followed by Kucha, followed by Ndlambe, followed by Ngushwa, followed by Port St. John's. The last one will be Winnie Madikizela Mandela. I think then ukuze ibe nice for the photo shoot, you can make that nice queue, honorable members. Nelson Mandela, because the mayor is present, followed by KST. Nayibona kuba yinto yamadoda le. Followed by KST, followed by Kucha. Nayibona ke? It's a men's forum. Followed by Ndlambe. It's a hostel, men's hostel. Ndlambe is not here. Followed by Port St. John's. Hey, one a woman amongst those. Followed by Winnie Madikizela Mandela. All the mayors from the districts are not there. So I take it now, we're going to start with, sure, thank you. Let's wait for the explanation from Utebo.
Am I audible?
After Port St. John's is Winnie Madikizela, then
Am I audible?
Ndlambe, you are after Kucha. Where is Ndlambe? Ndlambe Mayor? So Tolop, Aiko? Ngushwa, okay, Ngushwa is after, is before Port St. John's. Ngushwa, you are before Port St. John's. Thank you very much. After Port St. John's is Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Thank you so very much. Igro.
No, thank you very much, Madam Chair. We part of the BIGM project, and I think SIPO also is also going to add, is that as part of the work that we were doing as part of the project implementation plan, was that for us to sustain the project and be inclusive, we proposed to the leadership that let's have a pledge for community of practice so that we continue engaging our communities. Salga is going to support the municipalities when we establish this. Others are it's for us to look at what's there, and then we don't establish them for us, but we piggyback on the ones that are existing. We have developed terms of reference. We have shared with the municipalities, and the only thing that is outstanding now is for the pledge to be signed. It's got all the objectives. One of the key one is to enable gender approaches to local development, municipal financing, decentralized governance through the customized GBA. It means we'll also be able to follow municipalities to do the program, to identify a guarantee seek agreement on asset management and climate change on the existing initiatives. We will be talking about the free program tomorrow after the assets management for municipalities to benefit. So part of the things through the PDO is those of the things that we wanted to ensure that we sustain the project while we are able to look at other avenues, but also to provide an informal point of contact for municipal staff on the specific benefit and interest area that affects assets management and climate change. The team out of, I think there are around 25 from the municipalities that are doing professional certificate in asset management. They know the importance of us engaging communities when we want to build a future local government. So thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think SIPO is also with us to add on the part of the why the pledge as part of us to continue supporting our municipalities for the next 5 years of Salga new strategy, so that we don't leave the project as it's closing up to today. So we are continuing to provide a support to municipalities, but we also want to bring also other municipalities, as PDO alluded yesterday, in all the sessions that we had, that we continue to provide the support, but focusing on the key issues of asset management and climate change. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Teboho. Had I known that you will take more than 6 minutes, I would have been given you the platform. You don't make the honorables to stand and listen to you. That's the protocol. You don't make the honorables because in between umosha kwa ile nto esiyenza la, you should have indicated in the program that you will have a mini speech to do so that we understand, then they sit down. However, we are starting with Nelson Mandela Metro doing the signing. A good walk will do. KSD, ifoto iyafota, umuntu lo khombayo sicela asuke, kuthiwa makasuke umuntu okhombayo ngoba la muntu ufota akaboni. Liyafota. Bhala composition. Kuha. Baqala ukusayina i-performance agreements. They are used to signing performance agreements in municipalities. They take their time. Thank you very much, Kuha. Mushwa. Thank you very much, PSJ. There's no space. WMMM. Thank you very much. Betty Zandla. Thank you. Kubeshni, I'm not sure whether Mr. Marshall Galado is online.
Marshall is online. Marshall?
I am online. Thank you very much, everybody. I won't take much of your time aside from saying thank you for being for us today. Thank you for the mayors for pledging to be part of this community of practice. The community of practice will provide an opportunity for continuity of all the efforts and knowledge and tools and skills that have been built through the BIGM municipality, and be able to give a platform for those who have been involved in BIGM to share their newfound skills, knowledge, and tools with others across the Eastern Province, and hopefully it will grow to a national level. Tomorrow we'll be announcing with Tiboho other things that the folks who are in the community of practice and across the province will be able to partake in and be able to tune into the asset management online webinars that can form as a basis of exchange for interaction for the community of practice. So once again, I thank everybody for making this commitment and for being here with us today. And we look forward to talking about asset management tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marshal Sipho Galado. Let's give him a South African round of applause. Betty Zanda. Thank you so very much. We are coming to, okay, I've been made to understand that Musa must also go and sign. Where is Musa? Please, Musa. I will have to discipline this one. He must go for DC because Musa should have signed before the honorables. I'm teaching you a protocol, Jeremy. You can go and sign, Musa, where you're supposed to sign. Thank you so very much. We are coming to the issuing of certificates, and I will invite the PC members to come in front so that they issue out the certificates to the municipalities that are beneficiaries. Then the first one will be Winnie Madikizela Mandela, followed by PSJ this time. Also a PC member, you are a beneficiary. You are both. Okay, thank you very much.
Is it
What-
three? No, they will call them by names. They will call them. No, I need to tell them director will call them and they come up.
They'll come up like this. Okay. When I call the name of, you come this way, Standasam.
Yeah, and they will end that side.
But it will be better if they're coming that side, then they go this way.
So that way, no.
Okay, thank you very much. We need Madikizela, you come this way, then go that other side. Where's the certificate? Winnie Madikizela, then I forward it to, I forward to the, thank you. Yes, Winnie?
Kaloku bakhona abantwana abanye. Cela kuthathe abantwana.
It cannot be.
It cannot be. Kaloku
Winnie Madikizela Mandela, can you take your certificate? For a nice photo, you must be in between the other PEC member and then. Now, I don't see the work of the other PC member if there are three in front here to kind of, yeah, because you should be holding the both of them. Up stage. Thank you very much for the nice photo. PSJ, can you go down? The following one is Ponson Jones. The mayor must receive the certificate on behalf of the municipality as a head in the face of the municipality. Walking up again. Stand the sum. PSJ. Yes. To be followed by KST. But his phone, you've been going to 2 minutes. Oh, ni phone. Followed by Ngushwa. Musho local municipality.
And this is sanitizer. Sanitizer and we press on.
Followed by Ndlambe. Ndlambe is not here. Followed by Kocha. Yes, but Ndlambe is not there. Shortcut, Kocha. People are they're taking photos. You can please start there from where you're coming from. No, you can't do the shortcut.
I'm showing my oldest friend.
But this is for memories to come. If you jump in like this, it's clumsy. It's really clumsy. What are you going to do with the districts? Because they're not, all of them, they're not here.
Yeah, they're not here.
But I think the reps, if they're there, because this is a closed conference, if then they're going under the carpet. So the reps from those, even if it's a local municipality, because it's under that district, can we have Alfred Dinzo? So to look much again. Followed by OR Tambo. It will be presented by KST. So, thank you so very much, sweet.
Oh, after 27.
OR Tambo, we have seen the drill. You have seen the drill. You have seen the drill. Come on to your walk. Amatole. Amatole. Thank you very much. Amatole, come this way. Utokangkan. The last one is Sarah Partman. They have officially it will touch power. The anchors. Buffalo City Metro, followed by Nelson Mandela Metro. Who's going? Buffalo City? Mr. Krach must just come. You see, he's putting on his.
certificate.
Hey, taking over this power.
Yellow.
Nelson Mandela. Thank you so very much. We are done with the issuing of certificates. Can we give that big round of applause for the PC? Betty Zanda. Hey, but this one, they're very light. They're very light. We are at our last item for today's session, session D. I would just like to say when I step down in any partnership, partnerships come and go. But the proper planning of the exit is not always a good one. I just want to read this story. It's a 2-minute story on this partnership. This partnership is this one called marriage. It is said a new widow is talking to the funeral director. She says, lying over there is my John. God rest his soul. And he is laid out in his favorite brown suit. I kept my promise to send him here with that suit, but he looks awful in brown. Here is $200. I want you to get him a blue suit for the viewing and funeral. Thou says another partner, the new widow. The undertaker says he will take care of it, and true to his word, her husband is laid out in a nice blue blazer. At a suitable moment, the widow quietly thanks the undertaker for taking care of her request, and she's surprised when he hands back the $200. I had another man come in that same day in a blue suit, explained to the funeral director. He was the same size as your husband, and his wife didn't care what color he would be wearing, so I switched the heads. A partnership that has not been prepared for, a partnership whose exit was not planned properly, ends up with heads switching. Now he was boasting that he gave the funeral director the $200, only to find another man came, he buried another man instead of his own husband. Thank you very much. Then I'm inviting okay. I've been given a mandate. I'm delegated. In fact, this is delegation of work. Mine will be too short. It's just to thank every participant that is in here. Every occasion is an occasion where there's participants, and every occasion, every participant makes the occasion to be successful if they participate fully in that occasion. So, with those few words, thank you very much. Go rest early. See you tomorrow. Very early at 8:30, we are starting. We are not entering the hall. We are starting at 8:30. Be good and be on time. Thank you very much. Betty Sandra.